Advocates yesterday. If you missed that podcast, go to newstalk1510am.com and check out the interview on the podcast. A new bill in Madison would help lawmakers or lawyers pay off their law school loans if they represent poor people from rural counties, and the Bucks beat the Grizzlies last night, have now won 3 in a row. It's currently 45 degrees in Milwaukee and 43 in Waukesha. For 1510 AM, my name is Brian Kelly.
The following program is a presentation of DC Communications, LLC. Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dom.
Crudy.
How you doing, man?
I've been better, man.
Little oral surgery earlier today.
Oral what? Yes, I had a couple of teeth pulled. You can imagine. It's been a hell of a day for me, but I am rearing and ready to go. Lots of stuff happening. I'm not going to let a couple of teeth getting pulled out of my skull stop me.
He got a little pretty mouth, ain't he?
Sure got a pretty mouth.
Well, I'm glad you're not mailing it in. We'll see.
Yeah, right. Just because I'm here doesn't mean I'm not working.
Yeah, something like that. Buddy, I think you came to work. I know why you came to work. Just to enjoy my company so we could watch the Jeff Sessions Judiciary Committee testimony going on today.
He is a very honorable man.
But his memory, not very strong. Not like the president's. The president's got an excellent memory.
I don't know what I said. I don't remember.
It seems to be perhaps selective memory because he recalls details when answering other questions very, very well.
Very specific details.
Very specific.
I don't know about word frequency, but if someone's tabulating today, the most commonly used word by the Attorney General of the United States, I do not recall.
No, I don't recall.
And he was questioned many times by many, especially of the Democratic Congress people at the table. How is it you're permitted to just not answer our questions? And those are the ones he pretended to answer and didn't default to, I do not recall. There are just sometimes he said, I'm not going to answer that. Well, you got to plead. You got to plead the fifth. You got to plead executive privilege, but I'm not going to answer your question under testimony is not an acceptable answer. You'd think a prosecutor like the Attorney General might know that.
Well, maybe that's why he's doing that. Of course, you also have to throw in there, Crudy, the national security or top secret information. If I were to talk to you about that,
well,
I'd have to kill you.
I would just point out Republicans running this little chat show, and of course, they're not really forcing the Attorney General to answer any of the questions. Perhaps they are fearful that he perjured himself prior. Dom, maybe that's the new faulty memory. Let's jump into a Jennifer Rubin piece. Right turn at the Washington Post. Attorney General Jeff Sessions' defense for apparently misleading Congress about his knowledge of campaign contacts with Russians, is that he just has a bad memory. No, honestly, the man who now oversees the entire Justice Department might have heard about contacts from Russia, but no alarms went off. Nothing was seared into memory and no action was taken. Even if you believe Sessions, his testimony is damning. The Post reports, when asked previously about whether he believes surrogates from the Trump campaign had communications with the Russians, Sessions said, speaking for before the House Judiciary Committee, I did not, and I'm not aware of anyone else that did, and I don't believe it happened. Now Sessions said he recalled a March 2016 meeting with the Trump campaign foreign policy advisor, George Papadopoulos, Papadopoulos, in pleading guilty to lying to FBI agents, has admitted he told Trump and a group of other campaign officials, including Sessions, that he had contacts who could help arrange a meeting between Trump and Putin. Now, Dom, I'm going to aside here for a moment.
All right.
If someone proposed to me a meeting between Dominic and Putin, or Crudy and Putin, or Fancy Brian and Putin, that one's going to stick in my memory.
Unless it happens all the time.
Now, Sessions said he recalled the March 16th meeting, as we said, but let me read this little quote. I do not recall the March 2006.
I do now recall.
Oh, pardon me. I do now recall. See, I was doing the Southerner. I just drawled it.
That's
you didn't
right.
See, that way you don't know exactly what he's saying, right? No, that was
recall.
Crudy's misread. I do now recall, now with a W, recall the meeting 2016 at Trump Hotel that Mr. Papadopoulos attended, but I have no clear recollection of the details of what he said at the meeting. Again, he's talking about a meeting with Vladimir Putin, the head of Russia. If I'm privy to any meeting where there is a legitimate chance that one of the participants in that meeting could be meeting next with Putin, I might make a little mental note of that.
I would agree with you, Michael. That would stick in the memory banks, even for a guy like me.
Sessions went on. After reading his account, and to the best of my recollection, I believe that I wanted to make clear to him that he was not authorized to represent the campaign with the Russian government, or any other foreign government for that matter. But I did not recall this event, which occurred 18 months before my testimony of a few weeks ago, and I would gladly have reported that had I remembered it, because I pushed back against his suggestion I thought may have been improper. Again, a reason it should be seared into the Attorney General's memory.
Of course, it's a
If you think
line.
it's an improper meeting being recommended, I would think it's improper for you to meet with Vladimir Putin, Dom. I would also sear that in my memory where suggestion. I think even you and your faulty memory, Dom, you might even remember
No
that
doubt.
conversation.
No doubt. Jennifer Rubin from the Right Turn Washington Post. This is a conservative writer. And she kind of, she sums it up in this way. He doesn't remember, but if he does remember, he said to shut down contacts with Russians, but he didn't remember learning about contacts with Russians when previously testifying under oath. Got it? His routine to take offense at being called a liar is wearing thin.
Now, Dom, as we watched the testimony today
Oh,
of the
my.
fine Attorney General,
It certainly was something to behold, Michael.
we both came to the same conclusion. I was watching in the lobby. You were in your office. Apparently, you get your own TV in there. But we both came to this very same conclusion. In his passionate self-defense against perjury, the man nearly started crying, Dom.
He was being grilled. Apparently, Sessions, and I don't have
Tears, seemingly.
It looked like he was ready to cry. I mean,
Yes.
the little man was close to tears.
Not because we make it up, but
No,
because he
started
nearly
getting a little
tearful.
red-faced. And I don't remember the representative who was grilling him. I believe they may have been from Hawaii. Anyway, saying when you,
I think it was Ted Lieu, California.
California. When you filled out this form, you had to check a box and saying that you did not have any contact with Russians. And then you testified under oath that you did have contacts with Russians. So, were you lying then or you lying now? Oh, he did not take kindly to that question.
I don't think he did, Dom.
Jennifer Rubin goes into this piece, of course, and testimony. Of course, the Republicans in the House are trying to get Sessions to agree to some sort of investigation for Clinton, the foundation, and the uranium deal. I'm going to skip that part for now. Because
You know
we're
what came to
talking
mind as they
about-
were doing this back and forth? 5 minutes for the Dems, 5 minutes for the Republicans. I'm thinking, for Jeff Sessions, this must feel like going into a boxing ring for like 5 minutes. He's deflecting, he's dodging, he's not recalling whenever the Dems are asking questions, and then some.
Well, he
righty-
recalls the things that came out in public after he didn't recall them last time with much more detail.
Well, maybe he's a little punch drunk, but the righties then come out and they offer him a stool and a towel, a spit bucket, wipe him down a little bit.
Keep moving. Get that jab up.
Are
Keep
you
your hands
okay,
up.
Attorney General? But even some of the
Thank you for your service.
even some of the probing questions of the Republicans had this man a little apoplectic. He was not readily able to answer nearly any of the questions. I can tell you this. I am completely unimpressed with this man as the Attorney General.
Well,
it's not a partisan.
Hard, I know, but it's a hard thing. And I'm not saying that he's not
What,
an
to
intelligent...
tell the truth under oath?
No, it's a hard thing to lie when you know that you're lying and everybody knows that you're lying, yet you're still trying to get away with your lies. I mean, it's a lot of pressure.
Do you see his wife? It's got to be the wife over the shoulder. He's still giving testimony at this minute Sessions. I have not been improperly influenced in probes is the Chiron right now in the CNN in studio. But have you watched the wife? And then there's the one other woman that for a while was over the right shoulder. And the woman, like 4 rows back over the right shoulder. I don't currently see her in the frame. She was rolling her eyes with some consistency as Sessions was giving his testimony. She will be featured in a meme tomorrow, I suspect, Dom.
Let's just wrap up Jennifer Rubin's conclusion. Finally, if Sessions' memory is so poor, one wonders how he can reliably answer questions that the special counsel will no doubt ask about the firing of former FBI Director James Comey and Russian collusion. An attorney general who remembers nothing might escape implicating the president or others, but it also suggests he should never have been given the job.
Well, that was clear from the get-go as far as I was concerned. I tell you what, let's take our very first break of the day. We've got session sound.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's not all I do not recall. In fact, there is one exchange. There's one exchange that nearly sounded like a prosecutor putting the nail in the Jeff Sessions perjury coffin. But you draw your own conclusions. We are the devil's advocates. I don't think Sessions acquitted himself very well today in testimony. We're going to have a big show. Ronnie Monroe, we're going to talk about the Enbridge pipeline. You know, and I was shocked to see this in the Journal Sentinel reporting earlier today. 20%, if I read this correctly, 20% of the oil in the United States is flowing through Wisconsin currently. I'll make sure I got that number correct. Oh, is this correct? 3:30? When did that happen?
Yeah, that's been set for since last week.
Well, you could have mentioned the fact we got State Rep Dana Waxy. Is he a Democratic gubernatorial candidate? If I don't book them, I don't know they're coming, Dom. Outstanding
correct?
job.
Yes, sir.
And we got State Rep David Bowen. I guess we'll do some Walker bashing. We'll talk some Enbridge. And, of course, we'll come back and we'll give the Attorney General of the United States the roasting he so well deserves. I don't recall, Dom. That's not a sufficient answer. We are the Devil's Advocates. Come right back.
I don't know what I said. I don't remember.
Give me a break.
What'd you do?
He got a little pretty mouth, ain't he?
Scott Walker thinks Wisconsin should once again hire him as governor.
You wouldn't hire me to be a neurosurgeon.
This is a person who has not worked in the private sector since 1993.
You wouldn't hire me to run condos. You wouldn't hire me to run HP.
And has made his political career.
You probably wouldn't hire me to run the United States Senate.
By using divisive tactics to the benefit of his corporate donors.
The first step is we're going to deal with collective bargaining for all public employee unions. Because you divide and conquer.
Now he supports the largest publicly funded government subsidy of a foreign corporation in American history.
You know, they can go suck lemons.
And Scott Walker has yet to live up to his first campaign promise to create 250,000 jobs.
Is this a campaign promise? Something you want to be held to?
Absolutely.
Scott Walker, we the people are done sucking your lemons. This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org.
Hi, this is Brad Saug, owner of Zero Res Madison Carpet Cleaning. Zero Res is the best new technology in carpet cleaning. We have a patented process using empowered water, a high-tech process in which we force the water to act like soap. It doesn't want to stay in that state. It's jacked up and it's angry and it wants to hit the dirt and then it neutralizes. When we're done, all that's left in your carpet is just light moisture. In the end, you get the cleanest, greenest, healthiest carpet cleaning available. Call us at 848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it backward or forward, it's the right way to clean.
In 50 feet, turn left. Why are you driving so slowly?
After a few drinks, I'm taking it slow.
Well, you're not fooling the cop behind you.
What?
Get ready to pay in 0.1 miles.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Hey folks, sexy liberal Stephanie Miller here. Most new Wisconsin jobs are in Dane County, it's true. Some of my listeners are relocating to Madison. Many already commute there. When asked where to turn for a trusted real estate team that understands Madison, I say the same thing. Solidarity Realty. They help you through the process and protect your consumer rights. They live their values building community, promoting sustainability and diversity. Find them today at solidarityrealty.com and tell them Stephanie Miller sent you.
Hi, I'm Crudy. I'm here with my friend Tom Alonzi, Principal Officer with Teamsters Local 200. Tom, why are you union strong, Teamster strong?
Well, because, Crudy, the Teamsters are the most powerful labor union in North America with 1.4 million members, standing together for better wages, benefits, and working conditions at their respective places of work.
Tom, what are the unions going to do for the next generation?
The same things we Teamsters have done for the generations before them, Crudy. Give them respect, dignity, and representation with a legal binding contract with their employer, not just the empty promises of an ever-changing employee handbook.
Tom, if people want to know more about the unions or joining the Teamsters, what do they do?
Well, Crudy, they can simply call Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 and say, I'd like to know more about becoming a Teamster. Or they can go to our website at teamsterslocal200.com.
Be union strong. Stand with Teamsters Local 200, like News Talk 1510 AM and your friend Crudy.
Make sure you tune in to News Talk 1510 AM throughout the day for breaking news and up-to-the-minute political commentary. Monday through Friday, start your day with the Earl Ingram Show, 7 to 9 a.m. From 9 to 11, take a deep dive into Milwaukee news and Wisconsin politics on 414 Wisconsin with Brian Kelly and me, Stu Mann, the newsman. From 11 to 2, it's the Tom Hartman program. Then from 2 to 5, join us for the greatest radio show ever, The Devil's Advocates with Dom and Crute. Join the Resistance. News Talk 1510 AM, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio.
Give me a break.
Charged, never convicted. Dom and Crute are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show live on Wisconsin's Resistance Radio, 1510 AM WRRD. This product streams live on YouTube and Facebook. We're on Twitter at Devil Radio, and we're on the phones if you care to join us, 844-967-2789.
Dom, we got to give the audience a taste of the shellacking that Jeff Sessions
a flavor
is taking. This one, I think, exemplifies, especially the Democratic questioning. This one, Rep. Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General. Do you remember now? Do you recall this one? Fancy Brian, please play cut 94.
Senate. You voted in 1999 to remove Bill Clinton from office on charges of perjury, correct?
That is correct.
And connection.
Well, there were other charges. I voted
simple
for
question.
Impeachment. Yes.
Yes, understand. To remove him, actually, impeachment's in the House. In connection with that vote to remove President Clinton from office, you gave this speech on the Senate floor on February 29th, 1999, and in it, you acknowledged that while serving as U.S. Attorney, you once prosecuted a young police officer who lied in a deposition. And in that speech, you decided to prosecute that young police officer even though he corrected his testimony. Now, you testified under oath before the Senate Judiciary Committee in January. You subsequently corrected that testimony in a March 6 written submission and have been forced repeatedly to come back to the Senate and now the House to clarify. When explaining your vote on the Senate floor to remove Bill Clinton from office, you stated that you refused to hold a president accountable to a different standard than the young police officer who you prosecuted. Let me be clear. The Attorney General of the United States of America should not be held to a different standard than the young police officer whose life you ruined by prosecuting him for perjury. I yield back.
The gentleman may respond if he chooses to.
Mr. Jeffries, nobody, not you or anyone else should be prosecuted, not me, or accused of perjury for answering the question the way I did in this hearing.
That's why he answered it the way he did.
So
he could...
saith the defendant.
Yeah.
That was Hakeem Jeffries. He is from the 8th District, congressman from the great state of New York. Sessions, inadequate response. I mean, of course, you're going to say, oh, I didn't do it. And this is not a court of law. He is giving, testimony under oath again. But
well, as the chief law enforcement officer in the country, you would think that he would be spectacularly honest. But he certainly doesn't seem to be. And when reports come out that he omitted information, or one could say lied, I guess.
Perjured himself.
When you continually say, to the best of my recollection, on the front and the back of every single sentence, well, then you're always giving yourself an out.
I don't understand. He was later questioned. You're a prosecutor, sir, right? Yes, I'm a prosecutor, although he doesn't even answer that with a yes or a no. Would you tell your investigators to accept the simple answer, I do not recall? Would that be a passable answer? Well, somehow he finds it to be a passable answer, but there is a specific trial where he prosecuted a man, bragged about it at the impeachment of Bill Clinton when he voted to impeach Bill Clinton effectively for a picadillo for lying about having sex.
Oh, remember it was all about character back then, Crudy. Oh, the 90s, the good old days.
Do you know how many attorneys, do you know how many Department of Justice employees were assigned to the Clinton investigation?
No, how many?
Like 265 investigators. They came away with a man who cheated on his wife. Now, in retrospect, some of the accusations against Bill Clinton, and that's a whole different topic, through the prism of Harvey Weinstein, Roy Moore, Donald Trump, etc., perhaps a different reaction from the American populace. But certainly I know this man was prosecuted for lying under oath about having sex with a woman or, some sort of sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky.
I need to get back to work for the American people.
But that's why Jeff Sessions, the man who's now under oath and soon to be under oath in a criminal court of law, I suspect, Dom. God, I sure hope Jeff Sessions ends up in jail. I mean, I don't think he'll do well in jail, but, I'd like to see him there. Little orange jumpsuit doing a perp walk.
Oh, I don't know, rats. You can't keep rats in jail.
Chain gang down in Alabama somewhere. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. Phone lines open to you. Any reaction? The Attorney General, he never recalls his own criminal activity. 844-967-2789.
You want answers?
The American public is tired of obstructionists.
Give me a break.
I would rather you just said thank you and went on your way.
You're not wired to have a response to this sound. You're neutral to it. You hear it every time you finish a meal and never feel anything. But if we were able to associate this sound with a new stimulus, save the food, we've achieved pulling a natural response from you. Save the food. Why are we doing this, you may ask? Save the food. Because this ad is trying to change your after-meal behavior through brainwashing. Because food waste costs the average family $1,500 a year. Save the food, cha-ching, and $1,500 extra bucks is like getting a pay raise. Save the food, cha-ching, you're promoted, which could pay for your child's braces. Save the food, cha-ching, you're promoted.
Check out my braces.
So when you hear this sound, rethink your behavior. Cook it, store it, share it. Just don't waste it. For tips and recipes, visit SaveTheFood.com. Brought to you by NRDC and the Ad Council.
Well, you're listening to Wisconsin's Resistance Radio, WRRD, 1510 AM, Milwaukee, Waukesha. Ooh, I just felt a trickle down.
You're listening to WIN, Workers Independent News, a diversified media enterprises production. I'm Doug Cunningham. The D.C. Nurses Association says despite winning an arbitration award for $4.1 million in unpaid raises for nurses going back to 2013, the union has been informed that the District of Columbia will not certify the money to pay the nurses. The nurses work at United Medical Center, a public health facility of Washington, D.C. Walla Blagay is the staff attorney for the D.C. Nurses Association. She says nurses are dealing with mismanagement that has contributed to unsafe nurse-patient ratios, in addition to not being paid the wages owed.
Our nurses are working in a very unsafe environment. Many of the nurses feel overwhelmed with high nurse-patient ratios where they're looking at quite a bit of patients with chronic conditions, and they feel overwhelmed. They don't feel supported. This management that just lost the contract, we're not supportive of nurses. So these nurses are reaching their end. We're going to have to make some moves.
Blagay said before Veritas lost its management contract at United Medical Center, there were many issues, but the D.C. City Council was still going to move forward paying a management contract before paying the $4.1 million owed to the nurses. That contract was since denied, but Blagay says it's indicative of what labor is facing across the board in America.
This is not new to labor. We're seeing more and more of this where management companies, you see here there's a priority where it's like, okay, you have these nurses working in a very unsafe environment. You're not paying attention to them. You don't even listen to their concerns. And now you're not going to pay them, but yet you're going to give a contract raise to a management company who's shown to be ineffective. This is about priorities here and not really about the lack of certification of funds.
Public Citizen says Trump's nomination of Big Pharma executive Alex Azar as the next Secretary of Health and Human Services shows Trump isn't serious about reining in high prescription drug prices. Trump claims this guy, Azar, would be a star who will lower prescription drug prices, but Azar was president of Eli Lilly USA. Public Citizen says under Azar's watch, 6 million diabetic Americans had their insulin prices more than tripled by Eli Lilly. Public Citizen says that the price of Humalog went up 345%, and now Trump wants the guy who presided over that huge price spike for a life-saving medicine to be in charge of U.S. Health and Human Services. Public Citizen says if Azar is confirmed, then, quote, Big Pharma's coup d'etat in the healthcare sphere will be virtually complete, end quote. WIN is America's multimedia news voice for workers. Support WIN's worker news mission at workersindependentnews.com. You've been listening to WIN, Workers Independent News. For more information, visit workersindependentnews.com.
I don't know if you know the Devil's Advocates, but they are kind of a big deal.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, live on Brady Street, 1510 AM, WRRD, Wisconsin's only resistance radio. And Dom, I think most of the staff here has spent most of the day watching the testimony of Jeff Sessions under oath. A lot of I do not recalls being issued. You mentioned earlier Ted Lieu, the congressman from California, questioned the Attorney General about his prior disclosure. And I do declare, I think he got him on this one as well. Let's start with that, if we can, Fancy Brian. Ted Lieu from California and Attorney General Jeff Sessions.
Let me ask you two simple questions, because in a sense you've already answered it. You did have communications with the Russians last year, isn't that right?
Repeat that.
You did have communications with the Russians last year, isn't that right? Just yes or no?
I had a meeting with the Russian ambassador, yes.
Great. That's exactly the opposite answer you gave under oath to U.S. Senate. So again, either you're lying to U.S. Senate or you're lying to U.S. House of Representatives.
Well, that's
the time of the gentleman has expired. The witness can answer any further if he chooses
Sessions
to.
is almost crying.
I won't
right
repeat it, Mr. Chairman, but I hope the congressman knows, and I hope all of you know, that my answer to that question, I did not meet with the Russians, was explicitly responding to the shocking suggestion that I, as a surrogate, was meeting on a continuing basis with Russian officials, and the implication was to impact the campaign in some sort of nefarious way. And all I did was meet in my office with the ambassador, which we didn't discuss anything like that. So I just want to say I appreciate the congressman's right. I guess he can say it's free speech. He can't be sued here. And so that's just my response, and I'm sorry that
That's my response.
And I need a few minutes, please.
I'm sorry. How do you end testimony with, I'm sorry? That's my response. Lou, earlier in that exchange said, were you lying then on this questionnaire, or are you lying now? And, you know, of course, I'm sorry.
Well, I like how he now all of a sudden interprets the question from Franken. Now, before it was no one never had any meetings, and then it was, well, yeah, I guess we did have some meetings, but, you know, I encouraged him not to, you know, follow through with the Russians.
Well, Dom, not everyone's probably sat around watching this all day. Let's share some sound of the Attorney General, at least the current Attorney General. For now, he's Attorney General. If you would, Fancy Brian, let's start with Cut 88, Sessions on Papadopoulos. Hardly even knew him. Play the
I
cut.
had no recollection of this meeting until I saw these news reports. I do now recall that the March 2016 meeting at the Trump Hotel that Mr. Papadopoulos attended, but I have no clear recollection of the details of what he said at that meeting.
Okay, fair enough. Perhaps.
No recollection of any
Until the
clear
media.
details. Yes.
Except this was the meeting where Papadopoulos suggested that Trump should go meet with Putin. And he does seemingly remember he pushed back on the point, but didn't remember there was a meeting until after the press reported it. And it seems like Al Franken, the senator from the great state of Minnesota, it seemed like he was specifically questioning whether or not Sessions had had any meetings with the Russians. You think Kislyak might have come up? Let's keep playing it. Cut 89, Fancy Brian.
After reading his account and to the best of my recollection, I believe that I wanted to make clear to him that he was not authorized to represent the campaign with the Russian government or any other foreign government for that matter. But I did not recall this event, which occurred 18 months before my testimony of a few weeks ago. And I would gladly have reported it had I remembered it.
To the best of my recollection, I believe that maybe perhaps at some point at one time I said something or another, if that's what they testified to.
Now, let me ask you, Dom, if the Russians approached you about setting up a meeting with, let's say, Putin, would you think to call someone like the FBI maybe? Would you notify someone, I mean, while it was still, let's say, fresh in your mind?
Depends what we were going to meet about. Come on, man. Why would I, if I get a phone call like that, why would I automatically call the feds?
I would automatically, if the Russians were calling, I'm calling the feds. I'm turning that one over. I'm not playing that game, homie. Don't play that. But apparently the Attorney General does so with very little vivid remembrance. That is unbelievable to me. But let's keep going. Jeff Sessions talking about the Trump campaign. What a brilliant, chaotic thing it was. Cut 90.
It was a brilliant campaign, I think, in many ways, but it was a form of chaos every day from day one.
Much like the governance of this president.
Chaos.
Let's keep going down the list. Jeff Sessions, I didn't lie. Cut 91.
I will not accept and reject accusations that I have ever lied. That is a lie.
Oh.
You lying liar.
So,
I know you are, but what am I?
So he's never lied ever in his life, or he hasn't lied under oath to the Senate or the House?
It's a different question.
And again, it's not a lie if you believe it, right? It's not a lie if you just forgot.
Sorry. Let's skip one. Let's play Cut 93.
I have not been improperly influenced and would not be improperly influenced. The president speaks his mind.
I wasn't sure if he meant Putin.
He's bold and direct about what he says. The people elected him, but we do our duty every day based on the law and the facts.
So we already did the Sessions interaction with Jeffries. Let's skip down. 102. This is more testimony near the bottom of our hit sheet. No participation in wrongdoing in regards to the campaign. Is there other wrongdoing? Is he splitting the infinitive here?
I've had much wrongdoing, but never in the campaign.
That Jeff Sessions, he has a beautiful legal mind. Cut 102.
I had no participation in any wrongdoing with regard to influence in this campaign improperly.
Now, doesn't he draw a distinction that could be interpreted as, what other wrongdoing? Absolutely. Sure, I've done that.
Sure, and again, it depends on what you define as wrongdoing.
Perjury.
Breaking the law, or, coordinating with foreign governments.
Let's keep going. Sessions on Papadopoulos. That's hard for me to say sometimes. Snuffleupagus, cut 103.
It's reported in the paper that he said something about going to Russia and dealing with the Russians, and I pushed back and said you shouldn't do it. So I don't think it's right to accuse me of doing something wrong.
A snuffleupagus?
Reported in the paper. See, he can't even admit that he remembers the conversation, but he clearly defines what his response was. What is that?
You know, it was funny because as he kept saying, I do not recall. Congressman from Ohio, Republican, Cabot, I think his name, he questioned Attorney General Jeff Sessions about the death penalty, and he questioned Attorney General Jeff Sessions about marijuana policy. And Jeff Sessions, although he didn't explicitly come out and say, yeah, I can't wait to prosecute those bastards, that was the general tone. And then when he talked about the death penalty, Sessions said, well, many states and the federal government, well, we have the death penalty, and I feel like it is an effective mechanism, a deterrent, a vengeance. And I would point out, this was the very same man in the very same breath just moments before that was saying, I do not recall, as if he was an unreliable witness, like memories could fade, yet he is just fine with sticking it to people on capital offenses, and in fact would like to expedite the process. 20 years to put a man to death, we need to hurry that up. Treason, that used to be a capital offense under federal crimes, right?
Yeah, until he does it.
Hang him high.
Because now I see the destructive power of a lie. They're stronger than truth.
I tell you what, let's take a break here right after we play one more cut. Which one did we skip? Where was it? Oh, Jeff Sessions on Roy Moore.
Oh, we can't forget Roy Moore.
Alabama's finest. Saturday Night Live joked over the weekend that Jeff Sessions said, Roy Moore, something to the effect. He was even a little too Alabama for Alabama. Jeff Sessions turns on his friend, his future, replacement in the Senate? GOP accused pedophile Roy Moore? Well, let's see if Sessions,
if it's true,
defended him. I believe it's cut 9 to 2.
I have no reason to doubt these young women.
I think that's the clearest statement he said today.
I have no reason to doubt these young women, says the Attorney General of the United States. Now, Roy Moore ain't going anywhere, not according to Roy Moore.
No, not yet.
And you could say the GOP has turned on Roy Moore, but you know who's not turned on Roy Moore?
I haven't heard Trump turn on Roy Moore yet.
Well, the RNC has not turned on Roy Moore either. The RNC still got 11 employees on the ground, my understanding, in the state of Alabama campaigning on behalf of Roy Moore.
Come on.
Yes. That was reported, I believe, on MSNBC this morning. I was getting ready for the big work day, but I was listening and getting ready for the Sessions testimony. I was waiting at home. I lingered at the house just to watch Jeff Sessions, and it was a whole lot of I do not recall. But, here's a point I'd make. Republicans who are now en masse seemingly condemning Roy Moore's candidacy, why don't they take the very same attitude towards the self-confessed groper-in-chief Donald Trump?
It's a hell of a question,
How
Mike.
could one man's conduct be acceptable but not the other's? Let's come back. Let's talk about that titillating topic. After this short break, we are the Devil's Advocates on WRD 1510 AM. Phone lines open to you at 844-967-2789. Hope Wisco Paul is holding around. We'll check. We'll get you next, Paul.
I had no participation in any wrongdoing with regard to influence in this campaign improperly.
I find that answer vague and unconvincing.
Give me a break.
I moved on her like a bitch.
I was on Zero Res Madison's Facebook page the other day, and they have almost 2,000 testimonials from local customers. Apparently, I am not the only one stoked on how cool this company is. A green technology that actually works better and doesn't cost more, it's a no-brainer, I'm in. We are starting our own Devil's Advocates revolution to free your carpets from harsh chemicals and soaps. Call Zero Res today and ask for the Dom and Crute special 608-848-9000 or schedule online at ZeroResMadison.com. Zero Res, spell it forward or backward, it's the right way to clean.
When you need an attorney, trust the voice of experience, the only choice, Lawton and Cates.
I needed an attorney because I was injured at work. I wanted to find a reputable attorney. The results that I got with Lawton and Cates were very good. I'm very happy with the way I was treated and the end result that I got.
Trust the voice of experience. Call the attorneys at Lawton and Cates. 282-6200. 282-6200.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
Hey, it's your lovable furry host, Brian Kelly. We have a new show, 414 Wisconsin, weekdays 9 to 11, right after the Earl Ingram Show. Join me and Stu Man the Newsman as we talk about Milwaukee news, Wisconsin politics with great guests. We are going to have a fun time. 414 Wisconsin, weekday mornings 9 to 11 on News Talk 1510 AM, WRRD, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio.
Did you ever eat a perfect peach? Flavorful and succulent, juice dripping from your mouth. That's what you can expect every time you shop at Pete's Fruit Market. A perfect peach or any other fresh produce to satisfy your taste buds. Try Pete's brand new, clean, bottled, full-service grocery store on Martin Luther King and North Avenue. Daily specials, organic fruits and vegetables, and always a perfect peach. Go to Pete's Fruit Market in Bronzeville. Tell them the Devil's Advocate sent you.
Have you outgrown your house? Are you sick of apartment living? Not ready to buy but know you need to move? Hi folks, this is Tom Hartman for CCL Management in Middleton. You should consider moving up to one of the finer rental homes CCL Management represents. Unique houses and condos, always clean, most are pet friendly. Visit cclmanagement.com today to find your new home. CCL Management, Dane County's premier leasing and property management company.
Call CCL Management at 833-0009. That's 833-0009 or visit cclmanagement.com today.
So, Jesse, why should someone buying a home pay for an agent when they can go online or call a number on the for sale sign?
Great question. First of all, never call the number on a sign to see a home. That's the seller's agent, and they don't represent your interests. If they show you the home outside of an open house, you forfeit your ability to have someone negotiate in your corner to buy that house at no cost to you.
Well, with interest rates still at historic lows, how can buyers still get a great deal and protect their rights?
Step 1, find a buyer's agent that you trust.
Like you?
Like me. I will find the home that best fits your needs, anticipate problems, and negotiate on your behalf from the offer through closing day. And the best part is that the buyer doesn't have to pay a dime for me to represent them.
Solidarity Realty. They're real, they're solid, they're honest. Whether buying or selling in Madison or Dane County, call Solidarity Realty 608-284-9311 or find them at solidarityrealty.com.
We are people of compassion.
Kicking ass and taking names since the Wisconsin Uprising. Dom and Crute are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show live on Wisconsin's Resistance Radio, 1510 AM, WRRD, streaming on YouTube, Facebook, on Twitter at Devil Radio, and on the phones toll-free nationwide, 844-967-2789.
Dominic, there's bad governance going on, and I hope we can actually get time to speak about the bad governance being perpetrated by Republicans. But let's talk about They're complete and utter hypocrisy, first and foremost. And I start with Speaker Paul Ryan, this Roy Moore issue, this Alabama senatorial candidate. And here is what the Speaker of the House, Wisconsin's own, had to say today. He should step aside. Number one, these allegations are credible. Number two, if he cares about the values and the people he claims to care about, then he should step aside.
I moved on her like a bitch.
What did Scott Walker say? I remember as recently as Sunday on the Mike Goucher show, Scott Walker was saying, well, if he's guilty and if it's true,
remember when they told me I had a love child? That wasn't true. Remember when he said...
And then what's he saying now?
I'm going to be dating her in 10 years.
Here's what Walker said in a statement issued by his campaign, according to the Journal Sentinel. I believe Roy Moore should step aside.
Why the change of heart?
Because there's a fifth. So four
and
accusers.
If this is,
it's like if there's four, that's not enough. 5 is just the right amount.
Well, and in the case of Scott Walker, if on Sunday on Goucher's show, the love baby was his proof that Roy Moore is probably innocent. Is this now an admission that both Roy Moore and Scott Walker are guilty?
I think so. There's more Crudy. Vukmer, Senator Leah Vukmer, running for U.S. Senate, issued a statement on Tuesday. Roy Moore's conduct, as described, is very disturbing and should disqualify anyone from serving public office.
The same Leah Vukmer that made ads for Donald Trump after the Access Hollywood tape drop.
The allegations are credible.
And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
The allegations are credible and serious and should be treated as such.
Oh, God.
There was a confessional tape. The Access Hollywood tape had the man's voice. I mean, these are accusations against Roy Moore. And I suspect they're probably mostly or all true. But Donald Trump did a confessional tape to Billy Bush. The Access Hollywood tape. I mean, Reince Priebus, apparently the only sane Republican, thought he should withdraw from the race. Reince Priebus, right up until the point he was heaved ho, was villainized for possibly suggesting that this Christian conservative Republican base might give a damn about women being sexually assaulted.
I moved on her very heavily. In fact, I took her out furniture shopping.
Ruth Marcus at the Post. Question for Republicans. If you believe the women now, why didn't you believe the women then? Specifically, if you believe the women accusing Roy Moore, the Republican Senate candidate in Alabama, why did you ignore the women who accused President Donald Trump? And if you're troubled by Moore's alleged behavior, why were you so nonchalant about Trump's? I'm waiting.
You could see there was blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever.
Since the Harvey, and I'm back to reading from the Marcus piece, since the Harvey Weinstein story broke almost 6 weeks ago, the matter of Trump's conduct has been festering beneath the surface of most public discussion. Indeed, Trump's reported behavior is more like that of Weinstein than Moore. Both businessmen were accused of using their power in the marketplace to obtain or coerce, especially in Weinstein's case, sexual favors. By contrast, notwithstanding Trump's creepy interest in barging into beauty pageant dressing rooms to ogle young contestants, and his even creepier comments speculating about how he might have dated Ivanka Trump if she weren't his daughter, Trump, unlike Moore, faces no allegations of improperly pursuing teenagers, including those beneath the age of consent. He waited 10 years, right, Dom?
Mm-hmm.
Trump alleged conduct is unacceptable. Moore's is even more appalling. I'm not clear that that's the case, but the Trump-Moore comparison is unavoidable. Painful as this may be for Republicans, and even more for the White House. In both cases, Republican candidates stand accused of sexual misconduct. In Moore's, a growing chorus of Senate Republicans have chosen to believe the women, and with good reason. The similarity of their accounts, the absence of evident partisan or other improper motive, and the existence of contemporaneous corroboration all argue in favor of their credibility. And in Trump's case, much the same. Consider the account of Kristen Anderson, who told the Post that at a Manhattan nightclub in the early 1990s, Trump reached under her skirt and touched her vagina through her underwear, much as Trump described behaving in the Access Hollywood tape. Consider the conduct of former People magazine writer Natasha Stoyanov, the account of, who described how, while a 2005 reporting trip to Mar-a-Lago to interview Trump and his then pregnant wife, Melania, Trump shut the door behind us, and within seconds he was pushing me against the wall and forcing his tongue down my throat. Trump's response, as characteristic as it was unconvincing, was the same as Moore's total denial. Every woman lied when they came forward to hurt my campaign, he said in October of 2016. Total fabrication. The events never happened, never. All of those liars will be sued after the election is over. Waiting on that one too, says Ruth Marcus. The Moore situation backs Republicans and the Trump White House into an even more uncomfortable corner. As with the Anita Hill, Clarence Thomas hearings in 1991, the country is going through another national teach-in on the prevalence of sexual harassment and the systemic pressures on women to remain silent. Our collective understanding of the perniciousness of this behavior is greater now than it was 6 weeks ago. Our collective tolerance for it, I believe, lower. So what do Senate Republicans do now? Argue that Trump's accusers are less believable than Moore's? That doesn't seem persuasive. Argue that Trump's behavior wasn't as bad. Perhaps, but again, not the strongest argument to make in wake of Republicans having condemned Weinstein at all. Of course, the most credible explanation is both obvious and unspeakable in public. Republicans can afford to throw Moore under the bus.
Yes.
As difficult as it would be to narrow their already thin Senate majority, they could not risk losing the presidency, even if it meant electing Donald Trump. Folks, we are the Devil's Advocates. More of the Ruth Marcus piece appears on our Facebook page. Fine guests coming next. Enbridge Pipeline, going to talk with our friend from Brave, Wisconsin, Ronnie Moore, a citizens activist. Ronnie Monroe's her name. Doing this all by memory. Dana Walks coming to Brady Street soon. Gubernatorial candidate David Bowen. Man, we got a big show. You better come back. Hour 2 is next.
I want to thank the President of the United States for his steadfast leadership.
I moved on her like a bitch.
I'm Senator Leah Vukmir. I'm voting for Donald Trump.
And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
It wasn't true. It was a Scott Walker, Scott P. Walker. I'm Scott Kevin Walker.
I'm going to be dating her in 10 years.
Wisconsin's doing terribly. The roads are a disaster because they don't have any money to rebuild them. They're borrowing money like crazy. They projected a $1 billion surplus, and it turns out to be a deficit of $2.2 billion. The schools are a disaster. The hospitals and education is a disaster. And when I see Scott Walker with his little motorcycle and puts his helmet on and he gets off and he makes a speech, but he's always riding like, he gets off a bike like he's a big tough guy, okay, or a little tough guy. Their lobbyists, their special interests, and their donors will start calling. They gave you $1 million to your campaign, and this one gave you $5 million, and this one, you have to do it. You know what he's going to say? Okay, I'll do it.
Mr. Trump, you're using the talking points of the Democrats, and as we all know,
I'm using facts.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org.
I'm more resourceful than I thought.
My suit can still make an impression.
My video games are still game changers.
And my lamp can bring others a bright future.
Because when I donate my stuff to Goodwill,
it helps fund job placement and training for people right in my community.
Now my stuff gets a second chance.
And will give someone in my community
a second chance too.
Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. That's goodwill.org. This message brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
It's a lot easier to measure how many times students use a semicolon correctly in an essay.
Educated educators talking education.
Than it is to measure how many wonderful ideas are in that essay.
Busted Pencils.
There is no teacher shortage.
With Dr. Tim Slecker.
There is a teacher exit.
Featuring Matt Damon's mom.
You want to know what my mom would say?
We've had an intrusion into education.
Busted Pencils Radio. Saturdays at 11 on Resistance Radio.
You are listening to Wisconsin's Resistance Radio, WRRD, 1510 AM.
Another shooting tragedy. More pressure on more. I'm Rich Johnson. At least 5 people are dead, several wounded after a man started randomly firing at people in rural Tehama County, California. Here's correspondent Jim Roop.
An emotional Tehama County Assistant Sheriff Phil Johnston says 5 are dead, including the shooter, and a number are injured, including 2 students, when shots were fired at Rancho Tehama Elementary School.
It's a very sad day for us here in Tehama County. Really? Okay.
A man named Brian Flint, who says one of those killed is his roommate, told Action News Now that the shooter was his neighbor, who had threatened them in the past.
The neighbor has been shooting a lot of bullets lately, hundreds of rounds, large magazines.
Police say there are 7 shooting or crime scenes, and what is still unclear at this time is why the shooting spree. I'm Jim Roop.
Tehama County is about 100 miles north of Sacramento. People in the Seminole Heights neighborhood of Tampa are staying in their homes today as search dogs and SWAT teams hunt for a serial killer who struck again early this morning. Police say a 60-year-old man was shot and killed as he crossed a street, the gunman coming up behind the man and firing. Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell has said it before and said it again about Alabama Senate candidate Roy Moore.
He's obviously not fit to be in the United States Senate, and we've looked at all the options to try to prevent that from happening.
And today, House Speaker Paul Ryan joined the call for Moore to leave the race to succeed Jeff Sessions. Now Ryan says the House will require all lawmakers to get training to prevent future sexual harassment. The Attorney General says he did not lie during his confirmation hearings about what he did or didn't know about contacts between Russians and the Trump campaign.
My answers have not changed. I've always told the truth, and I have answered every question as I understood them to the best of my recollection.
Jeff Sessions before the House Judiciary Committee. I'm Richard Johnson.
Have pain you can't ignore? Then try first-in-class relief from Salonpas. Salonpas pain relief patches have everything you need in one clinically proven solution. They're the strongest label pain reliever available without a prescription, safely relieving pain for up to 12 hours. And Salonpas is the first and only FDA-approved OTC topical pain reliever. For first-in-class relief, get Salonpas pain relief patches in the green box with a blue wave.
Tomorrow.
Why are you interested in working at our company?
Imagine trying to land your dream job.
I hope I got the job.
And having the whole thing televised.
I'm so nervous right now.
Real people.
The first impression is everything.
Real jobs.
What do you think makes you a good fit?
Real interviews.
I'm always the person that strategizes.
You did a great job.
Somebody's about to get hired.
I really want this job so bad.
It's going to be a tough decision.
The Job Interview. All new tomorrow, 10 Eastern and Pacific. CNBC. Get yours.
Remorse from a prosecutor in Dallas after she was caught on camera berating an Uber driver.
Now former Assistant Dallas County District Attorney Jody Warner told reporters that she grew defensive and eventually angry when the driver didn't take the route she wanted. In audio obtained by the Dallas Morning News, the driver asked Warner to get out of the car and she refused.
I'm asking you politely to please step out of my vehicle.
Piss the off.
The driver says Warner was berating him. She says she felt uncomfortable.
When we go places, I'm always a little bit more on edge. That's just who I am.
Following an investigation, the Dallas County District Attorney fired the ADA. Clayton Neville, Dallas.
The swankiest addresses in Paris may cost you more now that Airbnb has agreed to limit how many days per year some units may be rented. The new caps of 120 nights a year, starting next year, apply to 4 central Paris neighborhoods. Airbnb recently did the same thing in London and Amsterdam. I'm Rich Johnson.
Hey, I'm Brant. Maybe you've heard us talking about MetaShare on the radio or heard people saying how they're really thankful for MetaShare, and you're like, okay, what exactly are you talking about? Hey, it's a great question. So here's what it is. MetaShare is a nationwide community of Christians who share each other's medical costs. Here's why it's grown so much. MetaShare costs about half what other healthcare programs cost. It's flexible, too, so you can pick a plan that fits your monthly budget, and you get to choose your own doctor from one of America's largest networks. Something else people really appreciate? You don't have to pay for procedures or prescriptions that go against your beliefs. And you know what the best part is? It works. And it's worked for more than 20 years. People who've experienced catastrophic health bills get their needs met. People pray for each other. MetaShare is a nonprofit, faith-based ministry, and it could be a huge blessing to you. Here's how you can find out more. Call 866-88-BIBLE, now available in Montana. That's 866-88-BIBLE.
Good afternoon. It's 3:05 for 1510 a.m. WRRD, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio. My name is Brian Kelly. Here's some headlines for you. Children of any age are now allowed to go hunting in Wisconsin with a mentor. Republicans in Madison have made it easier to condemn private property to build oil pipelines. And the state is considering adding lanes to Interstate 94 for driverless cars for Foxconn. The leader of Wisconsin's firefighter union, Malin Mitchell, announced his candidacy for the governor's race. If you want to hear that podcast from the Devil's Advocates, go to newstalk1510am.com. A new bill in Madison would help lawyers pay off their law school loans if they represent poor people from rural counties. And the Bucks beat the Grizzlies last night, now have won 3 in a row. Tonight, rain likely after midnight, lows around 40 degrees. Tomorrow, rain in the morning, cloudy in the afternoon, highs in the upper 40s. Currently 45 degrees in Milwaukee and 43 in Waukesha. For 1510 a.m., my name is Brian Kelly.
The following program is a presentation of DC Communications, LLC. Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back. Hour 2 of the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. And Dominic, we're joined by a good friend and a fine guest right from the top. She is Ronnie Monroe. Ronnie, welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Hey, thank you, Ronnie.
Ronnie, I know you as a citizen activist. Do you have any official titles, any groups that you'd like to help us promote today?
Well, basically Brave Wisconsin, which is my group. You can find us on Facebook at Brave Wisconsin. We have actually 3. We have a page and 2 groups, a public group and a closed group. And then also bravewisconsin.com, which is my blog. And then also 80 is Enough, which is a landowners group run by Mark Borkart. And then the Wise Alliance out of Madison.
And Ronnie, most of your activism is directed towards the Enbridge Pipeline 61 that runs across the spine of the state of Wisconsin. I saw a number today, and if people haven't found it yet, there is a long-form investigative journalism piece at the Journal Sentinel. We've published it at our Facebook page. It's called Greasing Oil's Path. But I was somewhat shocked to learn today, Ronnie, Enbridge's pipeline is up to 2.5 million barrels per day, which is about 20% of all the oil imports in the entire United States running across the face of Wisconsin through this pipeline.
Well, a little bit of an explanation there. Total, there's 2.8 million barrels, which is a total of 117,600,000 gallons of petrochemicals running through the 4 pipelines that come through here. Line 61 is still at the 1.2 million barrels per day, and then we have Line 6, which is formerly called 6A, which is running just slightly under 800,000 barrels per day. So those 2 are the bulk of the tar sands right there, and I guess that would be 84 million gallons of tar sands, or close to 2 million barrels of tar sands. And then we've got the other 2 lines. We have Line 13, which is the diluent line heading north, bringing the diluent that they extract from the dilbit and send that back up north. And then Line 14, which carries light to medium crude. So yes, we are when they call it the main line, yeah, it's the main line.
And Ronnie, explain this concept for those that aren't as politically active, at least in this issue, as you might be. You talk about the tar sands oil coming from Canada. Tell me a little more about tar sands oil.
Tar sands oil is comprised of this tar-like material. It's almost coal-like, to be honest, called bitumen, and that is mined in open pit mines in the Alberta region. It's destroyed a great deal of boreal forest up there and has really threatened the life of the indigenous people up there, the Athabascans. And so that has to be combined with something called a diluent in order to go in a pipeline, because bitumen is very thick. It wouldn't go in a pipeline without being modified. So they modify it with basically natural gas liquids, and they put that into the pipeline, they heat it up, and they make it into this really thick liquid, which they push through the pipelines.
And Ronnie, it seems like when you talk about the capacity, and I don't want you to repeat all the numbers, but they're big numbers. Ronnie, it seems like these pipelines must be under massive amounts of pressure. To your knowledge, do they ever leak? Have they ever sprung a leak? What's Enbridge's reputation?
Yes, they are under massive amounts of pressure. Line 61 has a capacity for 1,280 psi, and I wouldn't doubt that it's going at that right now. I can't tell you what Line 6 is. I've been researching that today. Enbridge has had over 800 pipeline leaks in the last 10 years. And with Kalamazoo in Michigan being the absolute worst, where they spilled over 1 million gallons of oil, and the area has still not been restored. So having lived on the pipeline myself and living very close to it now, it makes me very nervous, and it makes me very, very anxious for the residents who are within a half mile of that pipeline on either side.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. We got a citizen activist, Ronnie Monroe from Brave, Wisconsin, live on the phone. And Ronnie, you're a neighbor to this pipeline, and something under that sort of pressure, if there was ever a rupture, a puncture, do you fear for your family's safety?
Where I live, no. The river behind me could be impacted. Where I used to live, yes. I lived within about 300 feet of the corridor, and that is well within the 1,000-foot zone on either side of the pipeline that FEMA has established to be basically a hazard zone. And where I lived there, I would have been very vulnerable to heavier-than-air toxic gas and, of course, any type of explosion that would have occurred.
And, Ronnie, did this pipeline in your backyard help expedite your decision to move?
No, it didn't, because we moved in the early 90s, and at the time there was only Line 6, and we had no clue what was in that pipeline or how big that pipeline was. Line 6, just so everybody knows, is a Keystone-sized pipeline. It was a very well-kept secret. It wasn't on my land. It was on a neighbor's land. So we basically just kind of all thought that it was more of a utility line going from, one city to the next, kind of moving gas is what we were told. So I was thinking it was a natural gas line that went to another city just delivering gas. We had no clue at the time of what it was. And I honestly, even when they put lines, line 61 and 13 in, there was very little publicity about what was going on. And so I was not awakened to this, embarrassingly, this issue until 2014 when they wanted to expand the amount of tar sands that they were pushing through there already.
Well, you're awakened now, Ronnie, and I think you're the one that woke Dom and I on this topic. As the subheadline at the Journal-Sentinel reads, as environmental concerns halted pipelines elsewhere, Wisconsin government leaders quietly made it easier to condemn private property for a potential Canadian oil line expansion. So, Ronnie, as I understand the history of this pipeline, this first was built under prior administrations, but since Scott Walker and Republicans have been in complete control of Wisconsin politics, they've sort of greased the skids for more of these pipelines and basically turned back any efforts at local control to stem even the dangerous outcomes of a rupture, as I understand it. Can you explain that? Can you speak to the Republicans expediting this process?
Well, the first thing they did was change the eminent domain law from business corporation to business entity, because Enbridge is a limited partnership. They are not a corporation, so, by legal definition. So they made it easier for them to do that. And then when Dane County attempted to get a provision placed in there that they carry more insurance in case of an environmental disaster, we spent a year fighting that battle, and basically that has never gone through. We just haven't been able to do it. And then the state basically is saying that localities and municipalities aren't supposed to enact laws that would obstruct the flow of it. Now, I have to say, Wood County did get a resolution through stating their dissatisfaction with the eminent domain law, and Jefferson County has a vote on that same resolution tonight, and we are asking that the eminent domain laws be reformed to protect the property rights of Wisconsin citizens. So, it's basically the whole system has basically shifted to be in favor of the corporations, basically snatching the land away from our people, and we can't even protect ourselves by forcing them to have insurance or forcing them to pay some type of toll or tax on using the land that comes through here. Now, they do pay real estate taxes, I guess, or some type of taxes on the land. But, yeah, it's not good. It's really not good. And as of right now, we're still kind of in a limbo on they were going to come through with this Line 66, but since then they bought a pipeline out west called the Express Platte, and that will absorb some of the extra tar sands oil that's coming in with the new Line 3 into Superior. But then if you also read the other article that Dan Egan wrote, and he's just an excellent writer. I really love his exposés on the pipeline. But Line 5 certainly cannot remain in Lake Superior. It is going to have to be dealt with. And unfortunately, I think that coming through the mainline corridor is probably their preferred route.
Ronnie, I want to talk about that briefly before we run out of time here. Is this the one that goes through Mackinac under Lake Michigan?
Yes.
And my understanding was that the Enbridge, as the limited partnership, as you described it, found that there may have been some issues with those lines and did not inform the proper authorities? That's
correct. In 2014, they already knew that there was protective coating that was missing, and that was exposing bare metal. And they apparently held on to that little bit of knowledge until just recently, when they fessed up about it. And I think the state of Michigan's been doing a really good job there in terms of trying to rein Enbridge in and catch them on some of these, shall we say, bent truths.
Ronnie, what would happen if a similar rupture occurred in that line? Is that Line 3 in Mackinac? At Line 5 in Mackinac?
That's Line 5.
In Line 5, as occurred at near the Kalamazoo River. What impact would that have on Lake Michigan?
They're two different substances, so we really can't compare. Line 5 carries natural gas liquids and sometimes light crude. What they do is they batch what goes through there. And so it's carrying a completely different substance than Line 6B was in Kalamazoo when it ruptured. That was carrying dilbit. So it's very difficult to compare that. But Line 5, should it rupture in 1 million gallons of either light crude or natural gas liquids going into the Great Lakes, would be disastrous at that point. The currents there are absolutely crazy, and it could contaminate drinking water for millions and millions of people. So it's a serious issue there, and it needs to be dealt with. That said, that's oil and natural gas liquids coming from Canada, and there is a Canadian route where they can get it to Sarnia through Canada, and it seems to me that it's kind of time that Canada deal with some of their touch
Ronnie, you sound well on your way to a postgraduate degree in petrochemicals. Do you have a law school degree as well that you've been working on the side? Because this issue of eminent domain seems like the more pressing issue for Wisconsin citizens. They might start grabbing up more land for more pipelines. As we wrap this up for the day, Ronnie, any final comments on that topic?
Yes, it's serious. Right now, Enbridge is denying any expansion plans whatsoever. That said, our landowners are organized, and if you want a great guest to talk about eminent domain law, I suggest getting Brian Jordy on. He's the attorney for the Wisconsin Easement Action Team, which is our landowners that are organized, and he would be absolutely great. He also fought the Keystone in Nebraska. So
super quick, Ronnie, tell them about the event tonight again.
Jefferson County, City of Jefferson and Jefferson County at 7 p.m. tonight. The county board is going to be voting on the resolution to reform the eminent domain law so it is more protective of Wisconsin citizens.
Well, Ronnie Monroe, you're a fine guest in your own right. Thank you so much. Ronnie Monroe from Brave, Wisconsin. We got Dana Walks coming soon. More Devil's Advocates. Stick around.
The biggest fear that I think a lot of our supporters have is the outside money.
Oh, they drove a dump truck full of money up to my house. I'm not made of stone.
We are moving Wisconsin forward.
Hi, I'm Crudy. I'm here with my friend Tom Alonzi, Principal Officer with Teamsters Local 200. Tom, why are you union strong, Teamster strong?
Well, because, Crudy, the Teamsters are the most powerful labor union in North America with 1.4 million members, standing together for better wages, benefits, and working conditions at their respective places of work.
Tom, what are the unions going to do for the next generation?
The same things we Teamsters have done for the generations before them, Crudy. Give them respect, dignity, and representation with a legal binding contract with their employer, not just the empty promises of an ever-changing employee handbook.
Tom, if people want to know more about the unions or joining the Teamsters, what do they do?
Well, Crudy, they can simply call Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 and say, I'd like to know more about becoming a Teamster. Or they can go to our website at teamsterslocal200.com.
Be union strong. Stand with Teamsters Local 200, like News Talk 1510 AM and your friend Crudy.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her.
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C, take charge.
Got to get this all straightened out. Give a little talking to, man to man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve! Is now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D, help her find a new boyfriend.
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Wisconsin's doing terribly. The roads are a disaster because they don't have any money to rebuild them. They're borrowing money like crazy. They projected a $1 billion surplus, and it turns out to be a deficit of $2.2 billion. The schools are a disaster. The hospitals and education is a disaster. And when I see Scott Walker with his little motorcycle and he puts his helmet on and he gets off and he makes a speech, but he's always riding like, he gets off a bike like he's a big tough guy, okay, or a little tough guy. Their lobbyists, their special interests, and their donors will start calling. They gave you $1 million to your campaign, and this one gave you 5, and this one, you have to do it. You know what he's going to say? Okay, I'll do it.
Mr. Trump, you're using the talking points of the Democrats, and as we all know, that failed facts.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org.
Hi, this is Brad Saug, owner of Zero Res Madison Carpet Cleaning. Zero Res is the best new technology in carpet cleaning. We have a patented process using empowered water, a high-tech process in which we force the water to act like soap. it doesn't want to stay in that state. It's jacked up and it's angry and it wants to hit the dirt and then it neutralizes. When we're done, all that's left in your carpet is just light moisture. In the end, you get the cleanest, greenest, healthiest carpet cleaning available. Call us at 848-9000. Zero-Res. Spell it backward or forward, it's the right way to clean.
Hello, my name is Earl Ingram, morning show host on Resistance Radio 1510 AM WRRD at a new time slot, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Monday through Friday, Saturdays noon to 3. Join us at 844-967-2789, 844-967-2789. Stream us at newstalk1510am.com. Spread the word. Earl Ingram on Resistance Radio 1510 AM WRRD 7 to 9. I'm back.
The Devil's Advocates, the fix for political junkies everywhere.
And we're back. Thank you for listening. The Devil's Advocates radio show live on Wisconsin's Resistance Radio 1510 AM WRRD.
This Enbridge pipeline is like a spine through the state of Wisconsin. It is troubling to me.
20% of the import.
20% of all U.S. crude oil imports pass through the pipelines of Wisconsin. Most of the oil comes from the tar sands of Canada.
Wow.
According to this, and obviously our friend Ronnie Monroe, a fine guest in her own regard. I mean, talking about a lady who was self-educated on a topic, out there making a difference every day. I love Ronnie Monroe. This article, the Stan Egan piece at the Journal Sentinel, says 2.5 million barrels of crude oil per day. Our friend Ronnie says more like 2.8 million barrels. I believe Ronnie. And that's just passing through a couple pipelines through the state of Wisconsin, Dom. And this company, this Enbridge, as we talked about, the Kalamazoo leak, they didn't notice for like 18 hours. It was a continuous leak for 18 hours.
And it's still not cleaned up.
Fail-safe system.
$1 billion and years later, it's still not even close to being done.
No. Why would we be concerned at all? And of course, the Republicans in the state of Wisconsin continue to sell us, the citizens of this great state, in all of our environmental protections. They sell it down the river. Enbridge has had spills in their own right. I believe it was Enbridge right here in the state of Wisconsin. And I'm looking for one more point I want to make. I felt quite confident it was a good one. Export of oil. This pipeline does no benefit, garners no benefit, no savings at the gas pump. I don't pay less because we got a pipeline, because this pipeline just makes it easier for us to take oil from Canada, send it down to the Gulf of Mexico, and for them to export the oil to different ports.
Why don't they
like
run
China,
the pipeline
India,
through Canada? Let them worry about it.
Canada wouldn't accept the pipeline.
Yeah, there you go. They don't sell out as cheap as Governor Walker does in the state of Wisconsin.
I mean, there would be a much more direct passage to the west coast of Canada. They wouldn't allow them to do it. We here in the state of Wisconsin, we got to take the tar sands, the dirtiest, grimiest, most damaging oil. This oil that is barely financially feasible is the worst carbon-emitting oil impossible. And Scott Walker and the Republicans of the state of Wisconsin have no qualms allowing private citizens, read the Dan Egan report, it's about private citizens having their land grabbed by Enbridge, usually under erroneous circumstances. Enbridge just takes the land and fights you in court after the fact.
Rather ask for forgiveness than for permission. But hey, Crudy, Wisconsin is open for business.
Buddy, we got a Dem gubernatorial candidate. He's live in our Brady Street studio next. He's Dana Walks. He's a friend of ours. You better stick around. More of this big show, Devil's Advocates, on 1510 AM, Wisconsin's only Resistance Radio.
Are you with me? No!
Hey, America, we need to have a little talk. We've got more food than we know what to do with in this country, yet 17 million kids in America are struggling with hunger. Makes no sense. Luckily, the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks has volunteers gathering excess food and getting it to hungry kids. They're kind of like food angels. Hey, become a food angel yourself by supporting Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org. We can't do it without your help. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
If you're a single man under the age of 35, you'd probably like to know what the ladies are looking for on an online dating site. A guy who had a few drinks and later got pulled over for buzzed driving. See, that could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. And doesn't a guy who's back living with his parents but calls them my roommates just scream Mr. Right?
Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
The Stephanie Miller Show is on twice daily, 6 to 9 p.m. and midnight to 3 a.m. You can stream The Stephanie Miller Show and all of our fine programming on newstalk1510am.com.
Do you own a rental property, or would you like to partner with a rental investment team? Call the pros you can trust at CCL Management. Rental expertise second to none, a general contractor on staff to direct repairs and improvements, and real estate brokerage services tailored to the small investor. If you're ready to invest in rental property, or just need professionals to manage your real estate portfolio, call us, CCL Management, at 608-833-0009, or visit us on the web at cclmanagement.com.
Going through divorce is a very emotional time in someone's life, and when I went through my first divorce, I really needed someone to help me through the legal aspects of what my rights were. That's why I got in contact with Lawton & Cates.
The attorneys at Lawton & Cates. It's who you turn to for legal advice. 282-6200 or lawtoncates.com.
When you need an attorney, trust the voice of experience. The only choice, Lawton & Cates.
We've got Jesse Pica-Holtz in studio with Solidarity Realty. Jesse, why on earth are you advertising in the Milwaukee area when you help buy and sell homes in Dane County?
Simple. Since Walker's policies have taken hold 7 years ago, most new job growth in Wisconsin has happened here in Dane County because of its progressive policies. And plenty of folks who commute to or from Madison already know that many rentals here are more expensive than a fixed mortgage.
Solidarity Realty. They're real, they're solid, they're honest. Whether buying or selling in Dane County, call Solidarity Realty or find them at solidarityrealty.com.
Grass-fed, locally raised.
Tom Perez, chairman of the Democratic National Committee.
Hey, great to be with you. And since I spoke last, I went to my first game at Camp Randall. So
all right.
I was very excited.
Well, I feel quite confident that was a victory as my team's undefeated, Tom.
Hey, I agree. Our team, you should say. My daughter's there at Madison.
Oh, that's right.
It was a great day.
Happy
great
Badgers.
Day.
The Devil's Advocates, weekday afternoons on 1510 AM, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio. Good afternoon. It's 3:32 for 1510 AM WRRD, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio. My name is Brian Kelly. Here are some opportunities in the area to get involved in your community. Tomorrow in Oak Creek, there's a call to action event regarding cuts to Medicare. That's from 10 a.m. to noon at the Oak Creek Community Center. Speakers John Nichols and Dr. Mike Rosen will be speaking. Tomorrow, Rep. David Crowley will hold a town hall regarding reckless driving and automated traffic enforcement from 6 to 8 p.m. on Capitol Drive, Lutheran Church at 53rd and Capitol. David Bone will be on this show later on today at 4 o'clock to discuss this very matter. And then this Saturday, our very own Earl Ingram will be broadcasting live from Educators Amplified from 12 to 3 p.m. at the Cactus Club in Bayview, 2496 South Wentworth Avenue. Tonight, rain likely after midnight, lows around 40 degrees, currently 46 degrees in Milwaukee, 44 in Waukesha for 1510 AM. My name is Brian Kelly.
I don't know if you know the Devil's Advocates, but they are kind of a big deal.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Got another fine guest here on Brady Street. He's kind of a big deal. He's Dana Wachs, a Democratic state rep, and more importantly, a Democratic gubernatorial candidate. Dana, first time on Brady Street. Welcome, sir.
Yeah, this is really cool. This is a really neat studio. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks for coming down. It's always more fun this way.
All of our effort is in these two rooms, back office. Don't go in the back 40.
You're not allowed back there.
No furniture back there. It's all up here. It's all in this room. Dana, I also point out, I believe you are perhaps the only Dem gubernatorial candidate in the state of Wisconsin who signed my cheese head on DNC Radio Row last year.
I was so honored to sign that. I'm just tickled pink, in the words of Humphrey, that I was able to sign that cheese head.
Well, if that cheese head doesn't give you the bump you need to win the next
that's it. That's
the next governorship of the state
there.
of Wisconsin. Dana, I got to start with NITs a little, but I got to start with one of the big issues. Scott Walker signed the Foxconn on Friday. A lot of pomp and circumstance. Terry Goh came to town, the Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, in town. But a week prior, I was in Waukesha, Wisconsin, when Scott Walker announced his re-election campaign, mostly on the protest side across the street. But Dana, here's the point. Scott Walker did not mention the word Foxconn in the launch of his re-election campaign. If he's going to use $3 billion of the people's money, of the taxpayers' money as a political prop, could he have at least acknowledged that during his re-election launch?
Well, I got to tell you, I'm speaking all over the state. I'm giving speeches all over. I'm meeting people all over the state. And I got to tell you, there's a lot of resentment of this Foxconn deal. I mean, the magnitude of this deal is horrendous. And the fact that we're putting $3 billion into one company buried deep within one industry, that makes us vulnerable on several different levels. I mean, what's going to happen 5-6 years from now if that company says we need $500 more million to retool? The temptation is going to be to do that if we've already sunk $3 billion into one company.
Well, once you do business with terrorists, it's hard to stop doing business with terrorists.
That's why you don't do the business.
They're going to own us. We put $3 billion in there, and the temptation is going to be to keep giving them more money rather than have them leave. Think about what we could do with $3 billion. Mm-hmm. You know, my friend Mark Bakken did some calculations, and with $3 billion, you could have 10,000 startups each get $300,000 apiece. Now, we're last in startups in the United States. I mean, it's you got to work hard to get worse than last. And if we could invest in startups, those startups would be all over the state of Wisconsin, be in a diverse magnitude of businesses. It wouldn't just be software. It wouldn't just be, computer screens. It could and would be in a widespread type of businesses. And that would build a strong economy, a diverse economy, rather than dependent on one industry.
Well, Dana, I could give you a $500 million personal guarantee, but I don't think it would count as much. Does that persuade you in any way that the nuclear bomb was taken care of by a personal guarantee of the owner?
Clawback provisions.
There are clawback provisions in this agreement. I was glad to see that on behalf of the taxpayers, but trying to enforce that stuff is difficult. There are some there. There's no question there are some clawbacks in there. But, you try to enforce that, it'd take years to litigate that. And, the safest economy is an economy that works for everybody, a broad-based economy that would be spread statewide, throwing $3 billion into one company on the far southeastern side of the state. That's not very popular.
And it's a foreign corporation, which sticks in my craw just a little. Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates. We've got Dana Wachs. He is a gubernatorial candidate, a fine Dem, and a recent addition to the WEDC board. Now, you replaced your colleague Peter Barca on this board, and therefore you were at the most recent meeting when they voted, perhaps not the meetings prior, back in October. You weren't there in October, correct, Dana?
No, this was my first meeting.
But the November meeting, about a week ago, when this contract was approved behind closed doors, Dana, can you tell us what happened behind closed doors? Now, are we, the public, entitled to know what happened behind the closed doors?
Well, we discussed the agreement and we did look at the contract itself in addition to other documents. There were 2 votes against it. Senator Carpenter and I voted against it. The rest of the votes were for it. There was one abstention. I don't remember who that was. But, I think this is a bad deal for Wisconsin. I think it's a turn for the worst environmentally in every respect. I mean, we're basically putting blinders on and allowing them to do things with wetlands that no other company's really been allowed to do. It's a terrible precedent. It's the kind of thing that other companies are going to want the same kind of treatment when they come here. I've been a hunter and a fisherman my whole life. And if we start allowing companies to do these things, if we start putting blinders on and letting these companies do what they want with our environment, there won't be a place to hunt or fish. And this is important for Wisconsin. Our environment is something that's precious, something we've fought very hard to preserve, and we need to continue to fight.
Dana, if you were elected governor of the state of Wisconsin, what would you do with WEDC?
Well, I think I would drastically reform it. I mean, the way it's been working right now, it's basically a piggy bank for people that contributed to Scott Walker. That's not the way to go about making.
That's terrible.
Business investments are not to be done that format. I think more of a conventional commerce platform or department is what I would favor.
Now, I know we asked you this before the deal, before you saw the contract. Early after you announced your candidacy, we asked you about Foxconn. What do you do if you're elected governor about Foxconn? Now, would it be your intent to honor the contract, the spirit of the deal, or would you fight like hell? Is there a way to fight like hell against this Foxconn deal if you're elected governor, Dana?
If the parties are performing pursuant to the contract, you got to continue to perform according to the contract. For us to just walk away from it would invite litigation that could be very costly. Take a look at what happened to Scott Walker when he turned down the federal train money. We got sued by Telgo and paid a settlement. Now that there's a contract in place, we've got to be very careful about what we do. We have to. Otherwise, the state of Wisconsin is going to get sued, and that's not good for taxpayers either.
But Dana, even speaking to the former high-speed rail offer, Scott Walker, of course, misconstrued the downside to the populace. I read James Rowan, Political Blogspot, or something of that sort. Earlier today, we published it at our Facebook page. But here's the point. Scott Walker said the ongoing maintenance costs to the state of Wisconsin was about $7.5 million per year. That was part of his explanation, his rationale as he used to kill this deal.
But You're talking about the train.
The train, but the actual maintenance cost to the state taxpayers was like $1.5 million per year. He grossly over-exaggerated it, and he never told us about the $50 million downside paying off Talgo, the manufacturer of the trains. So can I believe Scott Walker when he says, oh, God, it's such a bad deal? If you kill the deal, you better honor the deal. It all seems to the benefit of this foreign corporation, Foxconn. It seems like all the downside is for us, the taxpayers. That's no deal that I would make, Dana. Are you sure it's as bad if we pull out of this deal as Scott Walker represents?
We're going to take a real hard look at it. We're going to put a punch list to make sure together to make sure that Foxconn is adhering to the contract, and we're going to do all we can to make sure that taxpayers' interests are protected. I was against this. When it first came out, I waited a couple weeks, I analyzed the materials, and then once you analyze these materials, once you get the documents from Fiscal Bureau, to me it seemed like a terrible deal, and I've been against it since I analyzed those documents. So, it's not easy to get out of something like this. It really isn't. Once there's a contract, it's a contract. And in terms of Walker with the train money, I think that was a catastrophe. I mean, that train money, multimodal transportation systems are best for the taxpayers and best for Wisconsin. MnDOT, Minnesota Department of Transportation, recently put Eau Claire on their long-range train planning system, because they understand in Minnesota that the more people you put on a train, the less wear and tear there is on highways. The stretch of highway between Eau Claire and Minneapolis is one of the busiest stretches of highways in the state. It's busy not because of the size of Eau Claire. Eau Claire's pretty small, but it's busy because Chicago's coming through Eau Claire and Green Bay. Highway 29 comes through. So MnDOT figured out that if we can take people off the highways, it'll wear out the Minnesota highways at a lower rate. And that's the kind of thinking we need in Wisconsin. We need multimodal transportation systems.
Well, you don't have to tell me, Dana. I commute each day from Madison to Milwaukee and curse the governor and my little buddy over there, who also, I think, opposed the train once upon a time. Didn't have any forethought about mass transit. But here's a point I would make. Maybe I wouldn't resent the Foxconn deal so if it wasn't a double dip. And here's what I mean. Mark Dayton in the state of Minnesota came in as the governor about the same time as Scott Walker. And what did Mark Dayton do? He raised taxes on the rich. And subsequently, Minnesota has thrived. Their employment is better than ours. Their household wage is better than ours. Their surpluses are massive compared to the duct tape math toss and scoop that Scott Walker has used to claim he's balanced the budget here in the state of Wisconsin. But one of the most indefensible moves, as far as I'm concerned, Dana, is the manufacturing and agri tax giveaway that we have here in the state of Wisconsin, $350 million per year that we commit to not collecting from other businesses. As a small business owner, that galls me that manufacturers don't pay any effective tax, 0.4%. So Foxconn, this foreign corporation, if they're profitable, they're still not paying any taxation on the profits, or effectively zero. And that's why we, the taxpayers, can't just give them a tax break. We have to give them cash because they don't have any taxes due. Dana, if you're elected governor, can you roll back the manufacturing and agribusiness credit separate of the Foxconn deal? Could we actually collect some taxation if they're profitable here?
Yeah, I think that needs to be looked at in great detail. And you take a look at Minnesota. I don't want to sound like Sarah Palin here, but from Eau Claire, you can almost see Minnesota.
You can see Mark Dayton's house from yours?
Yeah, and the thing that gets you is we've been a petri dish for far right-wing conservative economic models. And they have progressive leadership. And take a look at the difference between those states. On average, is $8,000 more per family in Minnesota for earnings than there is in Wisconsin. On average, is $2 an hour more for Minnesota employees than there is here. They have a school system that respects teachers and students alike. They have collective bargaining. They don't have a race to the bottom in terms of wages and the like we have over here.
Well, Dana, they also spend about half as much on their penal system, about half as much on their prisons as we do here in the state of Wisconsin. Let's not forget Scott Walker, the state lawmaker, pushed most of the truth in sentencing laws. The reason we've got an aging prison population that's ever expanding here in the state of Wisconsin, in large part, is lawmaker Scott Walker took the private prison money and is pushing the state of Wisconsin towards more private prisons. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Perhaps a little Lincoln Hills. More with our friend and a fine Dem gubernatorial candidate, Dana Wachs, live on Brady Street. More Devil's Advocates on WRD 1510 AM, Wisconsin's only Resistance Radio.
Our economy's on fire.
Oh my God, we're burning alive!
We are the People for People Corporation. We are a registered 501c3, totally legit. What do? We take your uncapped, dark money, tax-deductible donations, private or corporate, always anonymous, and we turn it into free speech. Educate Wisconsin through advertising, which may or may not be in coordination with the candidate. Isn't that illegal? It should be, but it's not under Wisconsin law, thanks Governor Scott Walker. Politicians in Wisconsin are beholden to the millionaire and billionaire sugar daddy and sugar mamas that finance their campaigns. Time to make them beholden to we the people for People Corporation. Give your tax-deductible donation to the real patriots, the People for People Corporation, P for ppc.org, P, the number 4, ppc.org.
Did you ever eat a perfect peach? Flavorful and succulent, juice dripping from your mouth. That's what you can expect every time you shop at Pete's Fruit Market. A perfect peach or any other fresh produce to satisfy your taste buds. Try Pete's brand new, clean, modern, full-service grocery store on Martin Luther King and North Avenue. Daily specials, organic fruits and vegetables, and always a perfect peach. Go to Pete's Fruit Market in Bronzeville. Tell them the Devil's Advocate sent you.
Make sure you tune in to News Talk 1510 AM throughout the day for breaking news and up-to-the-minute political commentary. Monday through Friday, start your day with the Earl Ingram Show, 7 to 9 a.m. From 9 to 11, take a deep dive into Milwaukee news and Wisconsin politics on 414 Wisconsin with Brian Kelly and me, Stu Mann, the newsman. From 11 to 2, it's the Tom Hartman program. Then from 2 to 5, join us for the greatest radio show ever, The Devil's Advocates with Dom and Crute. Join the Resistance. News Talk 1510 AM, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio.
I was on Zero Res Madison's Facebook page the other day, and they have almost 2,000 testimonials from local customers. Apparently, I am not the only one stoked on how cool this company is. A green technology that actually works better and doesn't cost more, it's a no-brainer, I'm in. We are starting our own Devil's Advocates revolution to free your carpets from harsh chemicals and soaps. Call Zero Res today and ask for the Dom and Crute special 608-848-9000 or schedule online at ZeroResMadison.com. Zero Res, spell it forward or backward, it's the right way to clean.
If you're like a lot of companies, you know you need IT, but you aren't sure where to start. That's where Five Nines comes in. Hi, I'm Todd Stryker, President and CEO. For almost 15 years, Five Nines has been providing IT solutions to companies just like yours. We'll show you the solutions that are right for your business and give you the roadmap to success in the future. Find us at fivenines.com. That's the number 5, NINES.com.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only ordering classic corner tavern.
Me, a cat, moving in with a new human. It took a little getting used to. She has these weird games she likes to play, like this giant feather. She sticks it in my face. I swat it away. She sticks it in my face. I swat it away. It's almost like she thinks I enjoy it. But seeing how much fun she gets out of it, well, I guess it makes it all worth it. Humans.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
There is no Dana, only soul.
The Devil's Advocates, making radio great again.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show live on Wisconsin's Resistance Radio, 1510 AM WRRD. If you miss any of this fine show, please go online, check out podcasts and interviews at domandcroot.com.
And Dominic, we got a fine guest live in studio still. He is Dana Wachs. He's a Democratic gubernatorial candidate, a state lawmaker as well. And Dana, you've received a lot of recent endorsements. A lot of people in the field. I think some of your endorsements helps you distinguish your candidacy from some of the other fine Dems. Who's in your corner? Who's giving you early endorsements?
Oh, we've got a lot of legislators that have come out and endorsed me. Senator LaTanya Johnson, Jonathan Brostoff here in Milwaukee, Lisa Subek, Therese Berceau, Representative Spreitzer, and Congressman Dave Obey. He endorsed me about a month ago, and Dave Obey's a progressive to the root, a progressive fighter for 40 years, and he understands the importance of maintaining candidacies and campaigns all over the state, not just in one geographic region, but all over the state. And he understands the importance of infrastructure in the rural communities and things of that nature. And he's just a flat-out wonderful progressive, and that's kind of who I really admire, and I very.
So you're starting to like sort of quiet.
Working real hard on that. There are days where I make over 100 phone calls. I mean, that's one of the realities of running for office is that as Democrats we get smaller donations from multiple people, and so we're on the phone all the time, raising money for our campaign staff and for the campaigns in general. It's just the way it is. We don't have billionaires too often that write checks for hundreds of thousands of dollars at a crack. We have to do it the hard way.
Dana, in that regard, lots of Democrats have come out and going to run for governor. And I think it's a great field, and I look forward to the conversations had by all. Some people have raised the concern that with the competition out there, the resources will be run dry during a heavy primary season. How does a Democrat, if you come through, how do you maintain the momentum and, of course, the money to compete with a guy like Governor Walker, who's going to sit back and watch all this happen with a big sack of cash of his own?
And Dana, may I suggest cost-effective radio advertising? But please answer, sir.
Of course. Well, I don't think anybody can outwork me. I work really hard, and I'm committed to this race, and we are working statewide, raising money and campaigning. And I think that's how we get through this. We work our way through it. I think we have a message that's catching on. Wisconsin needs a new idea. We need a new idea that actually concentrates on people. And that's kind of our message. I mean, we need policy for people in Wisconsin. The way it stands right now, we've got policy for powerful, wealthy special interest groups, and that's about it. This government needs to be for people. That's the way it was created. That's the intent. And what's happened now, it's just a government for very wealthy special interests.
Well,
that's got to change. It's going to change under our leadership.
Dana, sorry to interrupt. I don't know if you saw the Gubernator on Mike Goucher over the course of the weekend, but he was bemoaning the fact, I think he said something, and I paraphrase, I don't fear any of the Democratic candidates. I fear the outside spending.
The biggest fear that I and I think a lot of our supporters have is the outside money.
The outside money? What a hypocrite.
I think he got like $9.4 million in outside money or something.
Oh, God. It was
or north of that.
Way north of that.
Yeah.
That might be in his county executive race. The man has had like $100 million at his disposal. That was just his campaign. That doesn't even scratch the outside spending. Wisconsin Club for Growth funneled $24 million just in the last campaign. And if the John Doe 2 had actually gone to prosecution, Wisconsin Club for Growth, as I understand it, would have been subject to fines of up to $120 million, triple-doubled. Well, Eric O'Keefe and Rifkin in the fight to get out front of that corruption charge, well, that was money well spent. But I guess ending any fear of the Club for Growth, etc., burying your candidacy if you're fortunate enough to win the primary.
Well, we're doing everything we can to raise money, and we're going to continue to do that. Unfortunately, the realities of politics nowadays are that you must raise money. There are some candidates that are saying, well, it's not the money. Well, it is, unfortunately. Low information voters vote often based on the last few TV commercials that they see. We have to compete on that front as well.
Dana Wachs, gubernatorial candidate. If people want to get involved in your campaign, perhaps give a few bucks, how would they reach out?
DanaWachs.com. And I can see one of my campaign folks, my buddy over there, Pat, is I always forget that, and it's becoming a. I think they're gonna put that permanently on my wrist to make sure. DanaWachs.com.
How do you spell it?
It's DANAWACHS.
Just write it on your hand. That's what
that's what I'm doing.
Yep. Dana Wachs, good luck. We'll talk again soon. Thank you so much for joining us here on Brady Street. Folks, we're the Devil's Advocates. Come back with us. The 4 o'clock happy hour with David Bowen. Another fine state rep is next.
But if I'm right, and we can stop this thing, you will have saved the lives of millions of registered voters.
There is no Dana, only Sewell.
So, Jesse, why should someone buying a home pay for an agent when they can go online or call a number on the for sale sign?
Great question. First of all, never call the number on a sign to see a home. That's the seller's agent, and they don't represent your interests. If they show you the home outside of an open house, you forfeit your ability to have someone negotiate in your corner to buy that house at no cost to you.
Well, with interest rates still at historic lows, how can buyers still get a great deal and protect their rights?
Step 1, find a buyer's agent that you trust.
Like you?
Like me. I will find the home that best fits your needs, anticipate problems, and negotiate on your behalf from the offer through closing day. And the best part is that the buyer doesn't have to pay a dime for me to represent them.
Solidarity Realty. They're real, they're solid, they're honest. Whether buying or selling in Madison or Dane County, call Solidarity Realty, 608-284-9311, or find them at solidarityrealty.com.
What do current WRRD sponsors, guys like Lenny Mattioli, Crazy TV Lenny, now Crazy E-Bike Lenny, have to say about advertising with Wisconsin's only Resistance Radio? WRRD 1510 AM, would you call us a great radio advertising source or the greatest radio advertising source ever, sir?
Okay, first of all, my emotional answer is the greatest.
Yes.
Now a realistic businessman answer, okay? I would say equal to or better than any talk show style radio station that I've ever advertised on. The return on invested advertising dollar is as good on your station as I've ever seen. Right now, it's the best.
Be like Lenny. Advertise with News Talk 1510 AM. Call me, 414-635-0872, or email me, Crute@newstalk1510am.com.
You are listening to Wisconsin's Resistance Radio, WRRD, 1510 AM, Waukesha, Milwaukee.
Looking for a motive, stronger language. I'm Richard Johnson. As they treat and identify the victims of this morning's shootings around Tehama County, California, Assistant Sheriff Phil Johnston says the big question is still a mystery.
Right now, we have no known motive. We know of no real connection to any of the victims. Most of the victims in this case appear to be random selections.
4 people were killed, 10 wounded before police shot the gunman. Johnston says the shooter is someone with whom police are familiar. If he hesitated a bit yesterday, Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell is making it very clear today how he feels about Alabama Senate candidate Roy Moore.
Roy Moore should step aside. The women who've come forward are entirely credible. He's obviously not fit to be in the United States Senate.
On Twitter, Moore counters Mitch McConnell's days as majority leader are coming to an end very soon. The fight has just begun. Earlier today, House Speaker Paul Ryan joined the call for Moore to drop out. Ryan also says all House members will undergo training to avoid sexual harassment. All well and good, says California Democrat Jackie Speier, who adds that she has been the victim of sexual harassment at the hands of
2 members of Congress, Republican and Democrat, right now, who serve.
Speier did not name names when she testified before the House Administration Committee today. President Trump says his trip to Asia was tremendously successful, especially when it comes to trade. He told reporters on Air Force One he's looking for fair and reciprocal deals. The summer hurricanes were devastating for many, but very good for the bottom lines of home improvement stores. Home Depot says its third quarter sales were about 8% higher than last year. General Electric stock dropped to its lowest level in 6 years today, fueling a 30-point loss in the Dow. The NASDAQ dropped 20 points. I'm Richard Johnson.
Tomorrow.
Why are you interested in working at our company?
Imagine trying to land your dream job.
I hope I got the job.
And having the whole thing televised.
I'm so nervous right now.
Real people.
The first impression is everything.
Real jobs.
What do you think makes you a good fit?
Real interviews.
I'm always the person that strategizes.
You did a great job.
Somebody's about to get hired.
I really want this job so bad.
It's going to be a tough decision.
The Job Interview. All new tomorrow, 10 Eastern and Pacific. CNBC. Get yours.
Are you looking for senior care for your mom or dad but don't know where to start? Hi, I'm Jen London with The Place for Mom. Nobody knows your parent or loved one better than you, and nobody knows senior living better than the experts at A Place for Mom. It's a free service, and we've helped thousands of families find the right place for their mom or dad. There's a place for answers, a place for mom. Call today.
Call A Place for Mom at 1-800-379-1174. That's 1-800-379-1174.
Senate Republicans have thrown a curveball into their party's tax reform plans in the form of a provision to repeal the cornerstone of the Affordable Care Act, the individual mandate.
It would save $300 billion over 10 years. Eliminating the Obamacare individual mandate takes Uncle Sam off the hook for subsidies, thereby allowing the Senate version of the tax plan to stay within the parameter that it would only add $1.5 trillion to the national debt in the process. So GOP leaders like Senator John Cornyn of Texas are calling eliminating the individual mandate a tax cut.
Repeal the tax on poor Americans. About half of the people that pay the penalty under the individual mandate are people that make $25,000 or less.
But the repeal of the mandate may lose the same Republicans who were leery of direct attempts to repeal and replace Obamacare. Bob Costantini, Capitol Hill.
Also complicating that effort, the House tax reform package does not include the repeal. I'm Richard Johnson.
Hey, I'm Brant. Maybe you've heard us talking about MetaShare on the radio or heard people saying how they're really thankful for MetaShare, and you're like, okay, what exactly are you talking about? Hey, it's a great question. So here's what it is. MetaShare is a nationwide community of Christians who share each other's medical costs. Here's why it's grown so much. MetaShare costs about half what other healthcare programs cost. It's flexible, too, so you can pick a plan that fits your monthly budget, and you get to choose your own doctor from one of America's largest networks. Something else people really appreciate? You don't have to pay for procedures or prescriptions that go against your beliefs. And you know what the best part is? It works. and it's worked for more than 20 years. People who've experienced catastrophic health bills get their needs met. People pray for each other. Medishare is a nonprofit, faith-based ministry, and it could be a huge blessing to you. Here's how you can find out more. Call 866-88-BIBLE, now available in Montana. That's 866-88-BIBLE. Call.
Good afternoon. It's 4:05 for 1510 a.m. WRRD, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio. My name is Brian Kelly. Guess what? Children of any age are now allowed to go hunting in Wisconsin beginning this Saturday. Children under the age of 10 will be allowed to go hunting without an adult with an adult mentor who must stay within arm's length of the child. Governor Walker signed the new law this past Saturday, and licenses for kids went on sale yesterday. Most of the Democrats in the Assembly voted against the measure. However, Milwaukee Representatives David Bowen, who is going to be a guest in just a couple minutes here, and Jonathan Brostoff voted for it. Tonight, rain likely after midnight, lows around 50 to 40 degrees. Saturday, rain in the morning, cloudy in the afternoon, highs in the upper 40s, and then Thursday, mostly sunny, highs around 40. Currently, it is 46 degrees in Milwaukee and 44 in Waukesha. For 1510 a.m., WRRD, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio. My name is Brian Kelly.
The following program is a presentation of DC Communications, LLC. Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dom, we're sliding into the happy, let's call it a half an hour. Here on Brady Street, we've been joined by another fine guest, David Bowen, a state rep, a good Democrat, vice chair of the Democratic Party of Wisconsin. And David, you just asked us about our scheduled lineup. Sort of a sore subject here.
I was like, wait a minute, has there been a shift that I didn't know about?
Yes, we shifted forward in light of the fact that daylight savings and the damn FCC licensing means we got to shut this fine radio station off at 4:30. But David,
I see.
You'll be very proud of us. On December 1st, we're going to make a really big announcement.
Hey.
And you will all be very proud.
I like big announcements.
You'll be very proud, trust us.
I like big announcements.
Believe me.
It will be huge. But anyways.
Huge.
In the meantime, got to shut her down at 4:30. So
no worries.
We better get to it.
Hey, man. Nonstop.
David, Dominic booked you today, which is an unusual thing, perhaps unprecedented. Dominic's doing the booking, and it's good Democrats.
Don't worry, I'm working on Ron Johnson for Friday. We'll see what happens.
Hey, okay.
Well, I'll keep my fingers crossed.
Well, I had to book. David, I saw this presser that came out yesterday, and,
Yep.
and I thought it was something certainly worth talking about. Apparently, you have put forth a bill to replace Columbus Day with Indigenous Peoples Day. Now, the younger Italian Dominic, would think to myself, why would anyone want to do that? Because, of course, I think of how I grew up in school, cutting out the turkeys and seeing the little get-together with the Native Americans and the Pilgrims, but that's not really how it all went down.
Right.
So I'm down with the program. Can you tell me about it, and what's the reception been like?
Well, first off, let me give a huge shout out to some of the students of Indian Community School who made their way all the way to the Capitol today. Bright young people. You're talking about 4th, 5th graders that have passed a resolution and policy at the county level, and now they are partnering with me to pass it on the state level. So we are talking about not just my voice like last session when I put it forward and it didn't go anywhere. We're talking about young people who are advocating very, very diligently to make sure that this passes, to make sure that they make the real case of why it needs to be Indigenous Peoples Day from now on. And especially with our state and our history, why we definitely need to make that change. So they did an awesome job today big kudos to them.
Wow, lobbying start really young these days. How much money do they pay you, David?
Nothing, actually.
Well,
only smiles and high fives.
Well, that's because they weren't lobbying a Republican. They'd have brought their
allowance money.
money.
their lunch money.
David, it seems like a fine cause, and I don't mean to interrupt, but I got to ask you about a headline for a week or two ago. I got to get your reaction. The Democratic Party of the state of Wisconsin, of course, you're a part of that. And if I recall correctly, you were the only super delegate in the state of Wisconsin to go out and endorse Bernie Sanders.
That I was.
And of course, the state of Wisconsin went double digits for Bernie Sanders in the primary. And it was quite befuddling to me why your super delegate colleagues wouldn't support the choice of Wisconsinites, which was Bernie Sanders in the primary. Of course, many of them held out and eventually endorsed Hillary Clinton. The Donna Brazile, the story that broke, and we know about the Hillary Victory Fund now. We've known about it since April of 2016.
Yeah.
And we've gotten Martha Lanning's interpretation. I'm not asking you on behalf of the party, but as a Bernie Sanders super delegate, I got to get your reaction. Do you feel like the primaries were fair?
No, the primaries weren't fair. And so many people have been very clear and adamant about the fact that that there were two different fundraising agreements. That there were two fundraising agreements, but that they were different. And, you know, it's important to recognize the flub that has happened because of the difference in these agreements. It has allowed one side to have much more control, especially in a process where they weren't supposed to have control before the primary. You know, there usually is some process where you end up having a nominee and then they get a chance to have control of the party and its operations. But we were finding out that this was much more messed up than anybody ever thought, that it gave much control to one side during the primary that should have never happened. And that the folks that were very concerned with the accusations and the things that were coming out, that had the perception that things weren't being run fairly, clearly got insight that it definitely wasn't. So I don't think there's any sugarcoating it, any trying to cover it. It's there, right? It's time for us to really, if you want to move forward, you have to acknowledge that this has to be fixed, that this should have never happened the way that it did. And anybody that doesn't, you know, unfortunately is not looking at the realness of the situation. The flub that has happened is that one side had control even before the primary was complete, and that should have never happened.
So, David, I got to ask you, in real time or even with 2020 hindsight, can you look at any specific occurrences or anything that's troubling to you regarding the state of Wisconsin, the primary process that happened here? Once you made your declaration, once you endorsed Bernie Sanders, did you catch hell from National? Did you catch hell from the DNC? Did you see anything that would have given you an impression that something untoward was going on?
You know what? From the folks that were supposed to be impartial, not have to have a dog in that race, I got kudos from those folks. But there were some folks that, you know, clearly they weren't on the side that I was supporting at the time, so they didn't agree. So they were pretty vocal about it. But nobody was more vocal than the folks that were in Wisconsin, liked and loved the agenda, the progressive agenda that Bernie Sanders brought forth, and were well bought into it, and they voted for it. So there was clearly a primary where I told both candidates, Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders teams, that, you know what, I want you all to go out and to engage folks in our state, and the person that comes ahead, then I'll look at endorsing. Then I even had, as a leader of the party, had to make sure that I was being impartial, that I was not picking sides. And clearly, after Bernie won the primary, he showed that he had a message and an agenda in Wisconsin that should have been supported, and I was honored to do so.
Well, David Bowen, one more question about this. You are a superdelegate. What about eliminating the superdelegate process? My biggest contention is it wasn't a fair fight. Hillary Clinton had about a 15% advantage through superdelegates
Mm-hmm.
before Bernie Sanders ever declared his candidacy. So what about the superdelegate system? I think I heard Donna Brazil and others call for its elimination. What's your opinion?
I think that's definitely something that needs to be on the table. There are other changes that also need to be on the table too, when it comes to people taking sides and influencing the primary process. And if you want to have folks that are truly bought into a Democratic Party that will move forward in making sure that any candidate that has the chance to run and win, they can do so in a fair, election field, primary field. That's what we need to be focused on, and I think that's what people want in order to get people really bought into the party. And good thing is we're making strides on that because we're showing that on the state level with our gubernatorial race right now. So we have an open primary Dem process where we are saying if you want to run, go ahead, and you are not going to have the leadership of the state party get in the way, cherry pick candidates or support certain people and tell other people not to run. That's not what's going to happen here. It's going to be an open primary, and we are getting a lot of congratulations and support for that because that's what people want to see. They want to see a primary where you don't have to have your leadership tipping the scales. It can be organic. It can be about the base, selecting the leadership that they want to see.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Got a fine state rep. He's David Bowen, a good Democrat. He is part of the Democratic Party of Wisconsin establishment. He's the vice chair of that party. And I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to talk about the Democratic gubernatorial race.
I'm not. One more note on the superdelegates.
Yeah.
Don't you think perhaps the Republicans wish they had a superdelegate system? Because if they had a system that the Dems had in the last election cycle, Donald Trump would most likely not be president. Isn't that the point of a superdelegate system?
And you know what? That's a good point. And that's why I think it needs to be on the table about how do you rework this system so it really represents what people at the grassroots level, at the base, want to see. And there's always a problem if folks give their input and their insight and they select a certain candidate and you have a process that doesn't allow that candidate to still make it to being the nominee. I think that's what people want to see. There definitely need to be safeguards because God forbid there could be a situation
right.
There could be a situation where you're stuck with in a position where somebody that might not truly represent the interests and the issues of the majority of the party could make it to that level. And you do need some type of clawback, some type of safeguard, but one that does not hinder a democratic process so that people's voices can still be heard and will be solidified.
Well, I have no doubt that Hillary Clinton won the primaries, and
mm-hmm. And that's right. I think that's one of the things that people weigh too. Like if you still had, if you didn't have a superdelegate system and a majority of people still voted for Hillary, would it make a difference?
Well, I wasn't done. They still aren't done counting the ballots in California, but that wasn't my point. Hillary won the primary. Yeah. Bernie Sanders, of course, had the enthusiasm of many young people. Now, African Americans did not vote in the same frequency in 2016, especially here in Milwaukee, where we originate the signal. I got to ask you, one of the gubernatorial candidates, you just bumped into your colleague Dana Wachs in our lobby, fine candidate in his own right, but Matt Flynn, Milwaukee's addition to the race, former twice elected Dem Party chair, put out a proposition today, legalize marijuana in 2018, and above and beyond that, Matt Flynn is calling for an advisory referendum on legalized recreational marijuana. I have advised other candidates, this is a hell of a winning issue. If you want to involve young people, you better talk to issues that young people care about. And even some old stoners like Dominic care a lot about this issue. Is it a smart proposition to put legalized marijuana on the ballot?
Absolutely. Why not? I think the greatness of having an open primary is that you're going to see an influx in the institution of other ideas, other things being brought to the table and say, look, I want to see this happen. Other people will say, look, I want to see this happen. it'll be all up to the base to decide. But we have to keep pushing, and when we have an open process, that's what happens.
But above and beyond that, a referendum, is that a good way to help get out the vote? We know Republicans do it with things like, anti-gay marriage referendums. Could the Democrats use an issue like marijuana to help churn out young voters?
I think it's one of the options, but we don't just stop there, because I think young people also want to see action. We've had a number of referendums where people have voted, they've shared their perspectives, and that change still wasn't implemented. And I think you also want to make sure that how do you partner that with real action to see, the same folks that went to prison for marijuana also get out. They also get a chance to get their lives back, get integrated into society. There's so many other things we need to do.
Well, understandably, David, it would be a advisory referendum. The only way we're going to legalize marijuana, which is a very important issue to some of us, we got to elect the Democratic governor here in the state. Hey, David, stick around.
I will.
More Devil's Advocates live on Brady Street. David Blowen, a fine Democratic rep with us. More Devil's Advocates, WRD 1510 AM. Only for like 10 more minutes, then you better live stream us at newstalk1510am.com.
If you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
It'd be a lot cooler if you did.
Hi, this is Brad Saug, owner of Zero Res Madison Carpet Cleaning. Zero Res is the best new technology in carpet cleaning. We have a patented process using empowered water, a high-tech process in which we force the water to act like soap. It doesn't want to stay in that state. It's jacked up and it's angry and it wants to hit the dirt, and then it neutralizes. When we're done, all that's left in your carpet is just light moisture. In the end, you get the cleanest, greenest, healthiest carpet cleaning available. Call us at 848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it backward or forward. It's the right way to clean. Rich is just a really, really, really good guy. The term good egg isn't enough to describe him. He's also certified organic and free range. Rich puts the cap back on everything. The toothpaste, the olive oil, the shampoo, everything. He lets his 10-year-old nephew beat him at virtual tennis, even though he can straight up slay his 10-year-old nephew in virtual tennis. When the toilet paper is running low, Rich replaces the roll on the actual holder, not just on the back of the toilet. Rich is texting and driving. Rich, no. What are you doing, Rich? I was just telling everyone how great you are. Texting and driving makes good people look bad. Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
It only takes a minute to find out if you may have prediabetes, and you can do it at doihaveprediabetes.org. But you're probably not going to, are you? Kids, work, listening to the radio. You're busy, which is great because busy people can't get prediabetes. Oh my, I read that wrong. They can. Should have worn my glasses. So visit doihaveprediabetes.org and take a short test, because prediabetes can be reversed.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and its pre-diabetes awareness partners.
Wisconsin's doing terribly. The roads are a disaster because they don't have any money to rebuild them. They're borrowing money like crazy. They projected a $1 billion surplus, and it turns out to be a deficit of $2.2 billion. The schools are a disaster. The hospitals and education is a disaster. And when I see Scott Walker with his little motorcycle and puts his helmet on and he gets off and he makes a speech, but he's always riding like, he gets off a bike like he's a big tough guy, okay, or a little tough guy. Their lobbyists, their special interests, and their donors will start calling. They gave you $1 million to your campaign, and this one gave you $5 million, and this one, you have to do it. You know what he's going to say? Okay, I'll do it.
Mr. Trump, you're using the talking points of the Democrats, and as we all know, that I'm using facts.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org.
Do you own a rental property, or would you like to partner with a rental investment team? Call the pros you can trust at CCL Management. Rental expertise second to none, a general contractor on staff to direct repairs and improvements, and real estate brokerage services tailored to the small investor. If you're ready to invest in rental property or just need professionals to manage your real estate portfolio, call us, CCL Management, at 608-833-0009 or visit us on the web at cclmanagement.com.
I don't know if you know the Devil's Advocates, but they are kind of a big deal.
Well, you guys are having a good show so far.
Hey, could you say that again? Just not for our sake, Paul, but for the sake of the audience.
Yeah, tell everybody once again what a great show we are having.
You guys have a good show almost every day.
Wow, almost. All right, thanks for calling, Paul. I'm just kidding.
Okay, every day.
Tweet some shade at you, Paul.
The Devil's Advocates, weekday afternoons on 1510 AM, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio.
Marijuana is not as dangerous as heroin. Would you agree with that?
I think that's correct. They are a breath of fresh air.
The Devil's Advocates, because it's always 420 somewhere.
And we are back from the 420 break. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Check us out online for interviews and podcasts at DomandCroot.com.
David Bowen, great state rep, Democrat, friend of ours. You were just making an excellent point as we came back from break. What about Scotty Wanker finally condemning Roy Moore? That wasn't what he was saying. On the Goucher show Sunday, it was, if it's true. Well, what? 4 accusers are not credible, but suddenly a 5th is.
Right. And let's be clear. This, if it's true perspective, contributes to rape culture. And our governor continues to flop the line of, what he's going to do to try to get votes or try to get support, instead of just coming out and just condemning what's right and what's wrong. And we're not talking about taking political sides. We're talking about kids being raped by men. And it's important that the top chief executive of our state actually has the gall to call out what's wrong from right.
But David, if he condemns Roy Moore, at some point he might have to condemn Donald Trump, and
which he should have done so
Donald
far.
Trump.
But he wants to be like Donald Trump. Unfortunately, it's clear in everything that he's doing these days. So let's start with Roy Moore. Let's go next to our president.
I tell you what, David Bowen, if you can stick around here on Brady Street, we'll take you to live stream with us.
Live stream it is.
1510am.com. Stick around. More David Bowen, a fine state rep, a vice chair of the Democratic Party of Wisconsin, a friend of ours. But if you're listening through traditional AM radio, you got to turn the signal off now. Damn FCC. But December 1st, I was telling you, don't break all my secrets. But December 1st, we got really big news. You'll be so proud of us. In the meantime, learn to live stream, learn to love it. NewsTalk1510am.com. We'll come back. Dom Croot, Fancy Brian, and David Bowen live on Brady.
Good people don't smoke marijuana.
Evil will always triumph because good is dumb.
Good evening, everyone. Due to FCC regulations and that we are a daytime AM radio station, this now concludes our broadcast day. But you don't have to leave us. We do stream online 24/7 at newstalk1510am.com. That's newstalk1510am.com. Or check us out on the TuneIn app at WRRD 1510 AM. For those of you already streaming, we now continue regular programming, and please welcome your friends from the radio station. Say hi, everyone. News Talk 1510 AM, WRRD, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio.
Hey folks, sexy liberal Stephanie Miller here. Most new Wisconsin jobs are in Dane County, it's true. Some of my listeners are relocating to Madison. Many already commute there. When asked where to turn for a trusted real estate team that understands Madison, I say the same thing. Solidarity Realty. They help you through the process and protect your consumer rights. They live their values building community, promoting sustainability and diversity. Find them today at solidarityrealty.com and tell them Stephanie Miller sent you.
People are always looking to invest in a good opportunity. So what if you could invest in the future of kids, like a stock? Not the kind of stock that's about making money, but a stock for social change, called Better Futures. With your investment, it helps students like me go to college. My name is Charles, and I'm your dividend.
Invest in better futures with UNCF. Visit uncf.org/invest. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, but a wonderful thing to invest in. Brought to you by UNCF and the Ad Council.
You are listening to Wisconsin's Resistance Radio, WRRD, 1510 AM, Milwaukee, Waukesha. There is not a gun to my head right now.
Did you ever eat a perfect peach? Flavorful and succulent, juice dripping from your mouth. That's what you can expect every time you shop at Pete's Fruit Market. A perfect peach or any other fresh produce to satisfy your taste buds. Try Pete's brand new, clean, bottled, full-service grocery store on Martin Luther King and North Avenue. Daily specials, organic fruits and vegetables, and always a perfect peach. Go to Pete's Fruit Market in Bronzeville. Tell them the Devil's Advocate sent you.
Music is a bridge between the material and the spiritual. My name is Harvey Lauer, and I'm 82. As a blind person, you have to be aware that nobody can tell you what you can or can't do. You really have to try things. My folks got me a little radio in 1940, and that was the best Christmas present I ever got. When I was 11 years old is when I started to play music, play the piano, and then the accordion, and then the cello. My wife, who was also blind, was a good cook. When she died, that's when I started Meals on Wheels. America, let's do lunch.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
Today we decided to walk to school. The light counted. 15, 14.
31? I mean, 13?
We took a left on Carroll Street. Danny's smart, but he gets distracted. He realized he forgot his homework. I hope he doesn't have another bad day at school.
When you can see learning and attention issues from their side, you can be on their side. That's why there's Understood.org, a free resource for the parents of the 1 in 5 kids with learning and attention issues. Go from misunderstanding to Understood.org. Brought to you by Understood and the Ad Council.
Why is Connor having trouble focusing in school?
Having trouble finding Connor's middle school? Would you like directions?
No, why is Connor having trouble focusing in school?
Finding lowest airfare to Istanbul.
No, I'm tired of fighting with him over homework.
Home, walk, restaurant. Need a review?
No, I need help. He's very smart, but his mind wanders. He's disorganized.
I think I understand.
Oh, good.
Finding best potatoes for French fries.
No!
Russet, fingerling, Yukon Gold.
Why don't you understand me?
Sorry, I was trying to show how Connor feels every day. Frustrating, isn't it? Redirecting to Understood.org.
For the 1 in 5 kids with learning and attention issues, this is what life can feel like. Explore Understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues, designed to help your child thrive in school and in life. Understood.org, because understanding is everything.
Brought to you by Understood.org and the Ad Council.
Our economy's on fire.
The Devil's Advocates, the fix for political junkies everywhere.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Yes, David Bowen, that's the great news. There's always a little more time, perhaps not on the AM signal, but here on live stream, News Talk 1510 AM. We know you're listening right
Unlimited.
now. Yeah, 24/7. We got a great lineup. Day, night, weekends.
Nice.
Man, I know you do a little radio yourself Monday nights over on River West. You and Jonathan Brostoff.
Stay repping, me and Rep Brostoff. We just completed episode 70.
Wow.
So
well
done.
done.
Wow, that's like 78 weeks. We're like, whoa.
You're an old radio guy now,
Yeah,
David.
man.
You're experienced.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Now, I'd offer you a job, and I would say any job relative to state lawmaker is probably a increase in pay. But radio's the exception, David.
Hey, man. And it won't feel like work, so that's not a bad proposition.
Well, it's hard to rack up hours at 3 hours a day, too. David, here in the state of Wisconsin, we're just talking about the hypocrisy of the Republicans.
Mm-hmm.
As you mentioned, Scott Walker is now suddenly condemning Roy Moore.
He should pull out of the race.
And the Speaker of the House has done the same. But as I like to point out, well, of course, you cannot condemn Roy Moore without ignoring the fact that the President of the United States is a confessed sexual assaulter. How do we know that? It's on the videotape.
I moved on her very heavily. In fact, I took her out furniture shopping.
And he moved on her like a bitch, I think he says. Pardon my strong language.
That's what he said.
So why aren't Republicans condemning Donald Trump? Is the environment here in our nation so changed since Election Day? Suddenly it's not acceptable, but if he sexually assaulted women last year, that was totally okay with them.
And you know what's interesting is that we're finally starting to see a shift in folks that are paying attention to victims and these situations where abusers are not being held accountable. And it's very clear in the situation of the president already on tape saying these things during the race and not being held to task.
No, he was held to task, David. He was disinvited by Speaker Ryan to come and speak here in Wisconsin.
The Fall Fest.
Oh, was that was all it was?
Yeah,
and then they were back being best friends on the same stage.
He got grounded for 30 days.
Weeks after that, like, come on, man. Like, and that's why I really highlight the fact that, like, the hypocrisy of just where we are in politics right now is that you have folks in the Republican Party saying, at all costs, we have to defend someone that we know has raped kids.
That's terrible.
Like really? Like, that's where we're at right now? And then, I think...
But what about Joseph and Mary? I mean, Joseph was older.
Oh,
and
God.
Virgin Mary was younger, and remember that
minus
story?
the sex, right? That's what made her the Virgin Mary.
Right. And
but the Alabama and the folks that are still supporting Moore in Alabama are turning to religion and saying, well, look at this and look at this. They're
Transgender.
They're using their religion to justify.
Wait, play that again.
Transgender.
That's Roy Moore. That's him trying to say transsexual. He calls them transgesters.
Oh, God.
Transgender troops in our bathroom.
Yes, that guy.
Man.
Still getting support from a big chunk
RNC. I heard this reported on MSNBC this morning. Well, the Republicans, and we know Speaker Ryan came out against him. Scott Walker's finally flip-flopped his way to the correct side of this issue. But the RNC still has like 11 paid employees on the ground doing legwork in the state of Alabama for Roy Moore. And they have a joint fundraising venture going on behalf of Roy Moore, and they have not abandoned ship as near as I can tell. The RNC is still married to Roy Moore, much like Paul Ryan said earlier this week. Effectively, the Republican Party is married to the other confessed sexual assaulter, Donald Trump. What, they merged their agendas?
I want to thank the President of the United States for his steadfast leadership.
So how do you explain it? Is tax cuts for the very wealthiest of Americans, is that worth embracing sexual assaulters? Is that something that is defensible amongst conservatives? I don't see how.
And let's recap how this marriage is going, right? So you won the election, tried to change healthcare, couldn't do it. Tried to at least get things passed through Congress, nothing's passed. Significant to the agenda that they once had. And now they're saying, well, this is our Hail Mary, I guess, right? Where we are going to get tax reform done, and which is really just tax cuts for the wealthiest people in this country. And it's still a question if they can still get that done.
Please, it's too much winning.
And it's so funny when I think even President Trump and some of his cronies are talking about, like, well, he's gotten done more things than the last president has got done at this stage. As a matter of fact, in his whole presidency combined, he's been working so hard. And it's just like, this marriage isn't even working out for you, right?
I think Trump should declare victory and walk away.
Yes.
Very powerful.
That would be great.
So what about the electoral consequence? I mean, voters have to be paying attention.
Yeah. Last Tuesday, we saw some consequences.
I know many Republicans that have daughters as well. They wouldn't want their daughters dating, let's say, a 30-something-year-old district attorney.
Well, that's why he went and apparently asked the mothers for permission to date their daughters.
A parent that has to give permission for their daughters to date a 30-something-year-old man.
It's very Alabama.
Here's my greater point, because we're Mississippi here. The state of Wisconsin, are we paying attention? Do we care? And I don't mean to Roy Moore. I mean to Donald Trump. I took great inspiration from what happened in Virginia last week. Not just Virginia, Washington State, New Jersey. Democrats finally back on a winning path. Let's hope. But here's the question. Electoral consequence. You know, Scott Walker wraps himself in the Packers and patriotism and any other damn issue that he thinks politically expedient at the moment.
Yep.
But I hope the electorate is paying attention. I hope his constituents, I hope all Wisconsinites are looking at the fact to embrace the policies of Donald Trump is to sell one's soul. There's no way to defend the marriage to Donald Trump. And this man, you know, he thinks he's going to walk a tightrope. Somehow he's going to condemn Trump when necessary and embrace Trump when he thinks it's in his own political best interest. How does he walk this fine line? How is he not married to Donald Trump? And should he be married to Donald Trump? I mean, hell, he needs Donald Trump voters if he thinks he's going to get reelected. You cannot both scorn them and embrace them, can you, David?
He did it last election when he was on the ballot. And, it's ironic when the different sides that you will see of Scott Walker when a situation is in front of him. It all depends on what's happening at the moment. And he always morphs into something else. But he's done this repeatedly, and I'm sure he could do it again. But this is such a unique political time right now where he thinks, and I think the people around him are telling him, your only path to victory to be a fourth term, never done before.
Third term. Threatening to run for a fourth, but, Tonette will come after him with another cabinet or something.
Right. For him to win, he has to supposedly keep that same base, but that's not the same base that he won with last election. So it's ironic that, the people around him think that this is the only way to get it done. Ironically, I think the electorate is so tired of leadership that does not add up to really creating the change that they want to see, even if they voted for Walker back in 2014. I think it's very clear that, he hasn't delivered on what he has set out to do. And he's trying to, you can come out with all the commercials that you want, trying to highlight was supposed to be the young rock star of the Republican Party. Now he's 50 years old. He's years in, hasn't lived up to everything he was supposed to do, hasn't created the jobs that he was supposed to create. And I think people are done. And I think you saw that remnant in last Tuesday, where Virginia, even rural Virginia, voted against the Republican Party, which is really interesting.
Now, I saw recently the average primetime Fox News viewer is a 68-year-old white man. How many racist white men in Wisconsin remain, and is that a broad enough constituency when most minorities, I suspect, will oppose Scott Walker's candidacy? Any reasonable, thoughtful female will oppose Scott Walker's candidacy. Can this man win re-election with old white Republican racists?
And he can.
If people stay home.
Characterization.
If people stay home, though, people got to get out.
Trump was able to do it. He can do it. But it depends on turnout.
Yes.
Right? And in the 2016 race, the turnout allowed a candidate that was only going to adhere to one section of the base of the electorate, and that was, white men voting for policies and an agenda that was very much racist, very much sexist. And folks that like that type of candidate, they came out and voted. And the folks that don't like that type of candidate did not come out enough to vote against that for the other side, the opposition. This, in 2018, this election has a chance to flip that on its head, and it's all about turnout. So if the folks that really believe in having a candidate that's going to represent everyone, that's going to actually do what they say in reinvigorating the economy, creating the jobs that are necessary for our communities to thrive, investing back into real people, you will see that those folks actually come out and vote and be passionate and be connected to the issues. But you can't have a repeat. You can't allow, especially a candidate like Scott Walker, only adhere to one portion of the electorate and not recognize everybody else, and have those base of voters come out in massive amounts, more than everybody else who wants more than that.
We had gubernatorial candidate and state senator Kathleen Vineout on a few weeks ago.
Okay.
And she was talking about the turnout for 2016, and her impression was it was a whole new batch of people that showed up and voted.
She
for
did
Donald
not
Trump.
believe in the Obama-Trump voter. She believes it is a differing electorate. A lot of people came out, registered, voted for the first time, in this case for Donald Trump.
And you did see that in certain portions of the state. You did see folks that for the first time, or newer voters, especially on the extreme right, come out because they felt like they connected to Donald Trump for the first time.
Yeah.
There definitely wasn't a candidate like Donald Trump before, and those folks are excited about him so much that they came out more than they've ever had. And I think the only
on
pushback,
TVs, they see him on movies, they see him doing, he's Donald Trump. He's this guy who's going to, drain the swamp and make big changes. But as you mentioned before, none of the legislative, or very few legislative acts have actually gotten through. They're divided as a party, certainly more so, I think, than the Democrats. And I'm wondering if those first-time voters, if they're going to have the momentum and the energy that voted for Trump to come out and do it again. I think not.
David, let me insert something here as we end this segment. Raw Story republished excerpts from a Journal Sentinel piece. They went to Richland County, Wisconsin, a bellwether weather county, a county that flipped from Obama to Trump. Here's what a Trump-voting Wisconsinite said. He's like a very bad child that I'm glad I didn't raise, says this Trump voter. She called the Republican Congress the Doolittle Congress and lamented that the swamp still hasn't been drained. Here's her quote. You just get disappointed on a bunch of levels, not just with Trump. Everything's in gridlock. Nothing's moving. He can't get anywhere like this. Well, I don't want him to get very far, and I want to talk about perhaps how someone breaks out of the Democratic field here to beat Scott Walker. And we had Malin Mitchell in studio yesterday. He doesn't look like Donald Trump or Scott Walker.
Yep.
He's got a little more pigmentation to his skin. Let's talk about African Americans, and will they have a deciding factor in Wisconsin's next gubernatorial election? David Bowen live in studio on Brady. Come back with us.
My party is going bat crazy.
They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people.
Transgender wasn't true. It was a Scott Walker, Scott P. Walker. I'm Scott Kevin Walker.
My good friend, Governor Scott Walker.
I was on Zero Res Madison's Facebook page the other day, and they have almost 2,000 testimonials from local customers. Apparently, I am not the only one stoked on how cool this company is. A green technology that actually works better and doesn't cost more. It's a no-brainer. I'm in. We are starting our own Devil's Advocates revolution to free your carpets from harsh chemicals and soaps. Call Zero Res today and ask for the Diamond Crude Special 608-848-9000 or schedule online at ZeroResMadison.com. Zero Res, spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
When you need an attorney, trust the voice of experience. The only choice, Lawton and Cates.
I needed an attorney because I was injured at work. I wanted to find a reputable attorney. The results that I got with Lawton and Cates were very good. I'm very happy with the way I was treated and the end result that I got.
Trust the voice of experience. Call the attorneys at Lawton and Cates. 282-6200. 282-6200.
Businesses today thrive and survive with technology.
At Five Nines, we provide businesses with the IT tools they need to stay relevant. We offer enterprise-level solutions at competitive prices. I'm Todd Stryker, President and CEO of Five Nines. Let us manage your IT so you can focus on more important things, like running your business. Check us out at fivenines.com. That's the number 5, NINES.com.
Make sure you tune in to News Talk 1510 a.m. throughout the day for breaking news and up-to-the-minute political commentary. Monday through Friday, start your day with the Earl Ingram Show, 7 to 9 a.m. From 9 to 11, take a deep dive into Milwaukee news and Wisconsin politics on 414 Wisconsin with Brian Kelly and me, Stu Mann, the newsman. From 11 to 2, it's the Tom Hartman program. Then from 2 to 5, join us for the greatest radio show ever, The Devil's Advocates with Dom and Crute. Join the Resistance. News Talk 1510 a.m. Wisconsin's Resistance Radio.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
Hi, I'm Crudy. I'm here with my friend Tom Alonzi, Principal Officer with Teamsters Local 200. Tom, why are you union strong, Teamster strong?
Well, because, Crudy, the Teamsters are the most powerful labor union in North America with 1.4 million members, standing together for better wages, benefits, and working conditions at their respective places of work.
Tom, what are the unions going to do for the next generation?
The same things we Teamsters have done for the generations before them, Crudy. Give them respect, dignity, and representation with a legal binding contract with their employer, not just the empty promises of an ever-changing employee handbook.
Tom, if people want to know more about the unions or joining the Teamsters, what do they do?
Well, Crudy, they can simply call Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 and say, I'd like to know more about becoming a Teamster. Or they can go to our website at teamsterslocal200.com.
Be union strong. Stand with Teamsters Local 200, like News Talk 1510 AM, and your friend Crudy.
I'm probably okay to have one more drink before I drive home. I'm probably okay. I open the window to stay alert. Probably okay. I just popped some gum in my mouth.
Step out of the car, please.
I probably made a mistake.
Probably okay isn't okay when it comes to drinking and driving. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. A message brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
What do you think of these online reports that say you had a love child in college?
The Devil's Advocates, tackling the issues you're not allowed to talk about at the dinner table.
And welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show, live on Wisconsin's Resistance Radio 1510 AM, WRRD, streaming live on Facebook and on Twitter. And you can get us on Twitter at Devil Radio.
And the live stream, newstalk1510am.com. If you're listening now, you probably know that already. We got a fine guest still in studio. He's David Bowen. He's vice chair of the Democratic Party of Wisconsin. He's a fine Democratic state rep from Milwaukee. And there are all kinds of breaking national stories. But I gotta ask you,
it's nonstop.
quickly, sir. African-American voters. I'd love to see Scott Walker get beat. Mm-hmm. And right now we got an ever-expanding field of Democrats. Dana Wachs joined us earlier today. Malin Mitchell live in studio yesterday. And I teased Malin a little bit. I said, you don't look like Scott Walker. You got a full head of hair.
They went to the same high school.
He mentioned that.
In Delavan.
Here's my question.
Yeah.
Something has to distinguish these candidates. Malin is the only African-American currently in the race, and I'd like to see African-Americans invested in any of these candidates, quite frankly, but Malin might be a good choice for them. He's intriguing as a candidate. He's got union leadership experience. He's run for statewide office before, and he doesn't look like the current governor. He's a lot younger. He's got better hair. And he's African-American. Do any of these things factor in? Do you think it might give Malin a unique position in the primaries?
Well, I think, first off, the fact that we have a diverse field officially as of yesterday is something to applaud for the Democrat candidates that we have. And I think it's even more than having just an African American in the race. I think you hopefully will see an influx of a focus on African American issues. And with Wisconsin still being, if I'm not mistaken, the worst state to raise a black child, some of the statistics that we still can't shake because we are not doing anything different to really make sure that we are investing in the lives of young people and investing in communities, especially communities of color, where there is so much destruction and dilapidated neighborhoods and housing and so many situations that we need to address that currently is not being addressed by our Republicans that are in power, especially Governor Walker. There clearly is an opportunity for us to step up and create that agenda that can fix those things. And I hope that all the candidates in the field will really focus on those issues that African-American voters will be passionate about, that they will be looking out for, to see if those candidates will be accountable to their plight.
And can you give me a couple of the issues? I mean, I've thrown legalized marijuana out. We've talked about disparate prison outcomes for peoples of color. Obviously, that factors into our high incarceration rates. But what other issues might be important to African Americans?
Quality education, definitely, because we have so many schools that are not being funded to the degree that they need to, and to address the, not just in schools, but in the lives of those young people when they go home. Are we doing things to pull people out of poverty? I think a lot of African American voters are looking for an agenda that will address that. Also, when it comes on the line of economic development, right? And Foxconn wasn't a project that was proposed to happen in the 30th Street corridor, like in my district, where there were once 20,000 plus jobs right there on 30th and Capitol. And you're talking about tens of thousands of jobs that once existed that haven't been there anymore because of globalization, because of different decisions that have been made. That was never an option on the table. But supposedly, Foxconn was supposed to be the project to employ everybody in Wisconsin, including the African American community that's looking for jobs. But we know that's not the case.
Last 10 seconds. Scott Walker care about African Americans?
Not that I've seen from his actions. I'd like him to point it out so we can see if he can prove anything otherwise.
State Rep David Bowen, first Vice Chair of the Democratic Party of Wisconsin. Thanks for sticking around for a good long time. We always appreciate your company. Also want to thank State Rep Dana Wachs, a fine Democratic gubernatorial candidate, for joining us here on Brady Street, and our citizen activist, Ronnie Monroe, Brave Wisconsin, keeping an eye on Enbridge. We appreciate her doing so. Join her in Jefferson if you're able tonight. I'd like to see a resolution on behalf of the people and not the corporations for a change. Thanks for listening. We'll do it all again tomorrow. Devil's Advocates Radio on WRD 1510 AM. Always streaming live 24/7. Newstalk1510am.com.
Unconvincing.
Scott Walker thinks Wisconsin should once again hire him as governor.
You wouldn't hire me to be a neurosurgeon.
This is a person who has not worked in the private sector since 1993.
You wouldn't hire me to run condos. You wouldn't hire me to run HP.
And has made his political career.
You probably wouldn't hire me to run the United States Senate.
By using